All right, guys, welcome back to the stream. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Back with another episode of MBG Live. Really appreciate you guys showing up. And as always, I appreciate you waiting patiently for the show to actually begin. I hope everybody is having a good day so far. I've been having a pretty good day. I just got done eating some lunch. So I don't know what time it is where you guys are, but it's around lunchtime where I am. So yeah, ate some lunch, got some coffee, and I got, most importantly, some topics that we are going to be talking about today regarding PlayStation. As you can see, Sony might be in some trouble. It's I don't know that it's going to result in anything serious. It's difficult to say right now, but if it does, sorry, just had to check something real quick. If it does, it could be pretty massive. Like, this is kind of one of those situations with Sony where um, it's up in the air as to like how this is going to impact, PlayStation, Sony as a whole, and potentially the entire gaming industry. But something has definitely occurred that we need to talk about. Unknown is saying nothing will happen. There's a very good chance nothing will happen. There's a very good chance. So yeah, I'll give you a quick rundown of the topics. The first and main topic we're going to discuss is Sony facing a nearly $8 billion lawsuit due to PlayStation Store pricing. Now, normally I wouldn't really cover something like this because, things like this kind of pop up all the time. But what makes this particularly interesting is that the lawsuit is actually going to proceed forward. So it's actually, there's something that's going to happen here. It may ultimately end up with, Sony winning and everything's fine and everything just goes back to how it is now, right? And it just ends up being a whole lot of nothing. But the fact that it's proceeding forward means that there is a possibility now that Sony could lose this lawsuit, and if they do, it's going to have massive ramifications for not only their company, but I would assume for the entire gaming industry as well. So we're gonna dive into that conversation. Something else we're gonna be talking about today, because we do have multiple topics. The Gears of War franchise narrative director switched over to the other GOW apparently, and has joined Sony Santa Monica. This is a pretty big get, it seems, for Sony Santa Monica. Potentially a significant loss for the Gears franchise. It's hard to say. We'll dive into that conversation. We have yet another update on KOTOR Remake. What is going on with KOTOR Remake? Is this game dead? Is it canceled? Is it alive? Is anybody working on it? Is Sony involved? What is going on? Well, we have an update. We'll talk about that. And then finally, we have another update regarding the Last of Us Part 2 remaster. We have a little bit more information to go over with that was discovered. So these are the topics that we are going to discuss today, guys. And before I get into it, I, as always, want to thank you for continuing to show the channel the support that you do. If you're watching the content live, if you're watching it later on, I appreciate it. Without you guys, there would be no content. I do want to ask you to take a second. If you are enjoying the streams, if you are enjoying the content, hit that like button, okay? Not only does it help with YouTube's algorithm, it lets me know you're enjoying it. And obviously, there are 3 ways you can support me directly. You can become a channel member. You gain access to some exclusive perks. One of those exclusive perks is the Members Lounge, okay? The Members Lounge, we're going to do another one today after this stream. It's something we're doing now on the channel. You guys seem to have responded very positively to it. I've really been enjoying it. So if you are a member, look forward to that Members Lounge. If you're not, consider becoming a member so you can gain access to that, as well as some other exclusive perks. If you are already a channel member, you can gift memberships. It's something we've been doing a lot here, and it's a huge way for you guys to support not only the community, but my channel directly. And then last but not least, consider donating a super chat. Okay, super chats allow you to ask questions, give opinions, make statements, everything in between. And it also, again, supports me directly. So big thank you and shout out to everybody who continues to do so. Yeah, I'm noticing lag. There is some lag. It's not a lot. It's the same problem I've been experiencing where there's some freezing. There's some hitches. Again, not to spend too much time focused on this because we've been talking about it a lot, but I have no idea what is causing this problem. I will tell you, I did order a new Ethernet cable. Okay. That Ethernet cable should actually be arriving today. At least I hope it is. It's a new one. It's the highest quality I could find. I'm hoping that maybe by changing out that Ethernet cable, I'm hoping it fixes this problem because this problem just is persisting. I don't know why. Everything on my end that I am in direct control of right now is fine. So whatever's causing this kind of momentary freezing or this hitching, I don't know. So you got your nog ready for the lounge, Ray. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right, let me so yeah, I will say I did discover Boss. He's not actually in here with me today, but he has been chewing some of my wires. He seems to have a certain preference for the type of wires he likes to chew. He likes the really thin kind of loose, almost like spaghetti wires. And I don't have many of them behind my setup. There are some though, and I did recently notice that he's been chewing on them, and he's been doing it at night. I knew it. I knew he's been doing it at night when I'm not, I can't catch him. But from what I can tell, he's not chewing the Ethernet cable, unless he is, and I just haven't discovered it yet. So, yeah, Boss is ruining. He's ruining the streams here now. But all right, guys. With that being said, though, I am going to get into the first topic. Sony might be in some trouble. We have to emphasize the word might, okay? We have to emphasize the word might. I think some people were thinking that I was going to be going on a rant today, like talking about how Sony needs to get their shit together. They're messing up. Look, we've talked all about that. And, this is actually something that's more... It's not an opinion. It's not something that we could kind of go back and forth about. I think there's a little bit more to it. But let me go over the info with you here. This is being reported by WCCF Tech. Sony to face $7.9 billion mass lawsuit due to PlayStation Store pricing. Sony will face a mass lawsuit in the United Kingdom that could cost them up to $7.9 billion. The lawsuit was filed on August 19th, 2022 by Alex Neil, a renowned champion of consumer rights and co-founder of Consumer Voice, on behalf of the 8.9 million PlayStation customers located in the UK. According to the claim, Sony abused its near monopoly of digital sales through the PlayStation Store, charging excessive prices for both game sales and in-game purchases, while also extracting a 30% commission from developers and publishers. The claim also says these prices are disproportionate to the costs incurred by Sony when providing these services to its customers. Yesterday, the Competition Appeal Tribunal, or CAT, ruled in favor of Alex Neil. Very ironic here. This is the same CAT that we discussed during the whole Activision Blizzard situation with the CMA. But they did rule in favor of Alex Neil, allowing the group legal action to go to trial. Alex Neil said in a statement, quote, "This is the first step in ensuring consumers get back what they're owed as a result of Sony breaking the law. It is significant that the competition court has recognized Sony must explain its actions by ordering them to trial. PlayStation gamers' loyalty has been taken advantage of by Sony, who has been charging them excessive prices for years. With this action, we are seeking to put a stop to this unlawful conduct and ensure consumers are compensated," end quote. Should Neil succeed in the upcoming legal battle, every UK customer who purchased a digital game or add-on via the PlayStation Store between August 19th, 2016 and August 19th, 2022 could be entitled to damages between £67 and up to £562. At this stage, consumers don't have to join the case yet, though they can sign up on the claim's official website to stay informed about its process. While a completely different lawsuit, it's interesting to see that many of the same arguments used by Epic in their legal fight against Apple and Google are being proposed in this lawsuit against Sony. Needless to say, if the legal claim were to be successful, it could help make the digital market more consumer friendly. And so, yeah, it's again, the thing that is significant about this, and the only reason I'm actually talking about it is because, again, normally things like this just get thrown to the wayside and immediately dismissed. And Sony actually, the first thing they did was kind of ask for this to just be thrown out. And to, I'm sure, Sony's surprise, it was not thrown out. And it's now going to proceed, and Sony is going to have to show up, and they're going to have to explain this, and it is going to be a legal battle now. And what makes this kind of peculiar is, to my understanding, here's the situation with Sony, okay? The situation with Sony is that, as far as I'm aware, they do not allow PlayStation owners to purchase digital games anywhere outside of the PlayStation Store. To my knowledge, that's just not a thing that they allow. Any place you can buy a digital PlayStation code is coming from, like, I think people who are kind of collecting these codes through bundles and stuff like that, but they're not like being distributed by Sony. And so I think this is the area in particular for Sony that might make this a little bit more difficult for them, because it's definitely not a good look, right? However, again, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong with this. To my understanding, I think Nintendo is in the exact same boat here with Sony, where, as far as I'm aware, the only place you can buy Nintendo games digitally is directly through Nintendo. Nowhere else. It's just not a possibility. And Nintendo does not. So it's worth noting that Sony is the one under fire right now. However, it's not just Sony. I don't know if Microsoft does. Yeah, when it comes to Xbox, that I'm not sure of. I feel like Xbox actually does allow digital game distribution outside of their own marketplace. I'm pretty sure they do. But right now it seems like Sony is the one that has, the bullseye on them. And Nintendo, I'm sure Nintendo is probably paying attention to this, being like, what's going on over there, guys? You're saying you can buy digital Nintendo games at many retailers. Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? No, I mean, this is where I'm a little bit out of the loop, because I don't really buy digital, and it's just one of these, like, that's the whole thing, man. Like, this is why I've encouraged people, like, yeah, you want to always try to buy some physical games if you can, because you're just giving more power. So you guys are saying I am wrong. Nintendo and Xbox allow digital game codes elsewhere. Okay. Well, this is where it's an area I'm not. So that's interesting. You're saying Sony is the only one. Sony is the only one. See, that might explain why they're the ones being targeted right now. Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely not a good look, and it's pretty clear that what Sony's trying to do here, Sony might be in some trouble, rightly so. Rightly so. This is not an area where I have any sympathy or empathy towards Sony, because it's like, hey man, I'm totally against the all digital future. I am completely against giving complete control to platform holders of any kind and content, distributors to just basically have total control. It would just not result in anything good. It just wouldn't. You can't trust these companies. Now, here's the one caveat though with this, right? Is the one thing I will say that makes me feel like this guy who is, what's his name? Alex Neil. The thing that makes me think he might end up losing this, well, number one, this is like a smaller, like, this is a kind of as far as I'm aware, like a smaller kind of entity trying to take on Sony. Sony obviously is going to hire. They have some of the best lawyers that money can buy. It's not. I don't think this is going to be in favor right now, or it doesn't seem like it's in favor of this Alex Neil individual. It seems like he does still have an uphill battle. This is a big deal that it's now going to proceed, but saying Sony's lawyer's on a losing streak, though. I mean, that's the thing. I'm just saying, like, we know that Sony obviously prioritizes having a good legal team, but it doesn't mean that they can't lose. Like, they definitely, like, this could definitely be something Sony loses. And you're saying this lawsuit is horseshit. Why do you think that? Just out of curiosity. Like, from my perspective, there's like two angles to this in which I'm viewing it from, right? Two lenses. The first is from the consumer lens, which is this would be, as far as I'm concerned, a good thing if Sony lost, because it would mean that, yeah, we're going to get like Sony and other, because it won't just affect Sony. Like, I mean, maybe the only thing this could result in is Sony having to allow people to buy games digitally for the PlayStation on other storefronts or in other marketplaces, and that would still be good. Like, I don't know why Sony's being so anti-consumer about that. Like, it just seems weird to me. I don't know why they're being that controlling in this area. It just seems like it's totally needless. But anything that pushes back against the digital, the digital age of gaming and the digital future, I'm not going to be against that, because it's like, yeah, again, man, like, I'm a supporter of physical games. I want to pay full price for games when I feel like they're deserving of it and they're games I'm excited for. Like, I want to support, PlayStation and the things that they do that I like and studios, but I'm not about this, give total control to these entities and these corporations and these marketplace owners. I'm not about that. I really feel like there has to be more give and take, truthfully. Saying your perspective is they would throw me in jail for filing such a suit by saying it's frivolous. The same reason I don't sue the cops. Richard, you're saying this lawsuit is BS. Fans crying about what? The best console on the market. That 7.9 PlayStation loses that can't go towards studio dev or acquisition. Well, see, that's the other side of it, though. That's the... No, Capono, you're saying, you guys heard it right. MBG stands behind Neil. That's the thing, is like, it is... See, what makes this so weird for me is that, like, I'm practically indifferent to it. Like, I don't really buy digital games. I very rarely do. Alan Wake 2, I only bought digitally because I literally had to. So it's just like, if anything, I know this is going to sound bad. But I'm almost at a point where it's like, I don't know that I feel sorry for digital, like, people who embrace digital only getting kind of screwed, because it's like, more reason to buy physical games. Like, see, they just want... They're not here to give you a good deal. They just want more of your money. Go buy physical games. I know that's very selfish of me and a little bit ridiculous, but I can't help it, man. It's like, Sony and every... Like, look, if these companies could have it their way, they would charge more for games. They would make it so you could only buy their games where they want you to buy them. But it's just not that simple. We have Corey the Legend Landiga back again. He's on a streak. He drops 5 membership gifts for the community. He gets us started off strong today. Guys, I want to see some W's in the chat for Corey. He is one of the most generous individuals here on the channel. He's always showing support. He's always gifting out memberships. He's always doing some heavy lifting here. So, Corey, thank you so much, man, for getting the membership train going today. Really appreciate it, bud. Let me see here. Okay, so, all right, yeah. So they're tallied up there. You hope this backfires on Neil and he goes broke. My thing with this though is that there you go. There you go, Corey.
Kept you waiting, huh?
My thing with this is like one of the reasons I don't want to see I don't want to say I don't want to see Sony lose this, but it is true, man, that like $8 billion is a lot of money. That's an unfathomable dude. That is a publisher. That's a publisher. So I'm not necessarily rooting for Sony to have this damage done, because it's like you know what I don't quite understand about this? You're saying MBG basically wants Sony to keep the money but change their ways. I mean, I guess that's one way of it. Well, because here's my question, and this is what I don't quite understand about this, and I feel like this was not explained by this Alex Neil guy, where like I'm not against the notion of pushing back against digital storefronts because I'm against the digital only future. And I know that these publishers, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, all of them, you know, they're all about getting there quicker, you know, as soon as they can, for obvious reasons. But he doesn't like, so he says PlayStation gamers' loyalty has been taken advantage of by Sony, who has been charging them excessive prices for years. With this action, we are seeking to put a stop to this unlawful conduct to ensure customers are compensated. This is what perplexes me about this. Like, he's straight up saying Sony is taking money from you that they shouldn't be taking from you. And I'm just like, I'm just failing to see how is this the case where it's like, the way I'm reading this is it would be like this guy telling me Sony charges you $70 if you buy God of War Ragnarok on the PlayStation Store, but they shouldn't be charging you $70. You're saying excess is the key word? Well, see, another reason why I think this Alex Neil guy may end up having a really hard time is, I want to read this excerpt again. It says, Sony abused its near monopoly of digital sales through the PlayStation Store, charging excess prices for both game sales and in-game purchases, while also extracting a 30% commission. That 30% commission, that's not going to go anywhere. That is the industry standard. So that's not going to change. That's not Sony doing anything egregious. That's just the industry standard. But this is where I feel like I'm guess, see, this is what it all hinges. In my opinion, this is what this case is going to hinge on. Sony abused its near monopoly of digital sales through the PlayStation Store, charging, you're right, excessive prices for both game sales and in-game purchases. What is that? I mean, I just don't know what this guy is going to present to prove to people, you know, to the judge and to the jury, like, this is excessive. Because the only way, in my opinion, this would actually be true is if, like, there's proof presented that Sony said this is how much they would charge for their games, right? Like, I don't know, how much is it in the UK? I guess £70. Yeah, it's extremely broad, and I that's where I feel like this case is going to live or die based on that, because this is why I think some people are getting a little bit frustrated, or like, this does kind of sound like bullshit, because it's like, look, I don't know how many people from the UK right now are tuning in, but I would have to ask you guys, for those of you who've interacted with the PlayStation Store in the UK and buy stuff or have purchased stuff, like, do you feel like you've been ripped off? You know, like, do you feel like something's unfair here? This is where I'm just very confused. Like, $8 billion or $7.9 billion. My question is, like, where's that coming from? Because, like, again, the implication is that that's $7.9 billion that Sony shouldn't have. They stole from consumers. How though? How? Like, and that's why I think it's kind of precarious. It's a precarious situation because you can understand like why you maybe look at Sony and you raise an eyebrow where it's like, Sony, why are you seemingly the only one, not allowing people to buy digital PlayStation games in other marketplaces? You're making it so you can only go through one tunnel, and that is directly from you, giving you naturally does give them more control. But the reason why I don't think this is going to end up going anywhere is because I think that will be something that that is a cause of concern, and that's probably why this is going to go through, right? Like that's why this is going to go to trial, where there's a concern where it's like Sony has removed options. You know what I mean? They have removed options. And I don't know, like a question I have is this as well. I guess the implication here is that if Sony were to allow other marketplaces or vendors to sell digital game codes or just digital games for the PlayStation Store, like, is the implication that we would get them for cheaper? I guess maybe that is it's the implication is that vendor A or B might be in competition with one another and they're selling theirs for full price, but they're going to sell theirs for like $10 less. I mean, I guess that is what it goes down to, but I've never seen that. I mean, then again, maybe I've never seen this because I don't shop for digital keys. I don't shop for digital games. I've always just been under the assumption that you're not going to get a digital code. I mean, I don't know, maybe like eBay or something, right? Like if somebody's selling their like Spider-Man 2 code or whatever, maybe in that case, but that still goes on, doesn't it? Like, I think Sony is like well aware that people are selling these codes out of the box. I don't know. It seems like it's a little bit messy to me from what I can tell. Like, I just don't know that it's this simple. And I think that this is where this Alex Neil guy might run into a serious problem where it's like, it's definitely not that simple. And he's going to have to prove like Sony stole money. Here's how I'm going to prove that they stole money. And it's like, well, I think really the stance he's taking right now is that the idea is that we would like somehow customers would be saving just so much money if Sony didn't have this tight grip where they're like, you got to get it through us. And I guess that is a possibility, but it's also not a guarantee. So it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, again, this is just why I'm like, just buy games physically. I don't know. I also do want to say this too, really quick, and I'll read these chats. I want to say this too. I think we also have to acknowledge that Sony does a pretty damn good job with the sales on the PlayStation Store. They do. I mean, every single day when I go on the PlayStation, and I don't check the store every day, but whenever I hover over it, there's always just these, I'm like bombarded with all these different categories of sales. So I don't want to, I think this is where this guy might have another major problem on his hands with this case, because it's like, yeah, there's basically a new sale every 2 weeks, and there's a ton of games on sale. This is where I think, Sony's going to present this obviously and say like, look, we're not like, this is the opposite of ripping people off. Like it's like, some games have ridiculous sales too, where like you'll see some games, some AAA games for like $5 or something, which is crazy. It's just like, it's just a complete steal. Sometimes it could even be cheaper than getting it physically, which is insane to think. And I think that type of stuff right there is going to keep Sony safe in this regard and keep other, anybody else safe as well. But that's my guess, that's my guess. I don't I don't want to say that, you're saying, dude, you keep going back and forth. What is my stance? So basically my stance is this. I don't really care if Sony has to make changes to how they approach their digital distribution. Because if they are forced to make changes, it's likely only going to be good on the consumer end or better for the consumer. And it probably wouldn't hurt Sony at all. So that I'm fine with, like, if they have to make changes. My other stance, though, like, well, not my other stance, but I guess the other side to my stance is I don't necessarily believe anything is going to come of this, because it just seems like these are almost two different things where, I don't know, maybe they could. I don't think that this is going to go anywhere, and I don't think Sony is going to have to change anything. And I think at the end of the day, most consumers, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I don't want to speak on behalf, because this guy is speaking on behalf of all of the PlayStation UK consumers. I don't feel comfortable in speaking on behalf of every PlayStation UK consumer, but I'm pretty sure at least the majority of PlayStation UK consumers are probably looking at each other being like, I don't really feel like I'm actively being ripped off. I could be wrong. Like, I could be wrong about that, but I see people complain about a lot of things Sony does. This is one of those things that I just haven't seen anybody complain about. You know what I mean? Especially because there is usually always the option to buy games physically. I just haven't seen people complain about this. So I'm nervous for Sony in the sense that if they were to, like, lose this, right, and they have to pay out nearly $8 billion, like, well, yeah, that is $8 billion that Sony could have set aside for possible acquisitions, for R&D for PlayStation, for future game. I mean, it would hurt them significantly. And it would just be kind of crazy, because it's like, I mean, when we talked about Activision Blizzard, right? And we were talking about, if the deal didn't go through, Microsoft was going to have to pay Activision Blizzard like $3 or $4 billion. And that's a huge chunk of money, dude. Like, that's not, no company just wants to actively immediately lose a couple $1 billion like that. Even a company as rich as Microsoft, it's just not good. It's not good at all. And it would hurt their bottom line significantly. So I get, I'm just in this stance where I feel practically indifferent to it, where it's like, I don't want to necessarily just go on the side of Sony and say this is fucking total bullshit and this guy just has an axe to grind with Sony, because it's like, well, I'm not against, like, pushing for pro-consumerism and not giving total control to corporations, and of course, but at the same time, it's just like what this guy is saying. I'm not eager to just say, yeah, you're right, man. What the fuck is Sony doing? I'm more like, well, are they really ripping people off? Like, are they really taking money from people? I mean, how do the PlayStation UK consumers actually feel about this? Because there is an aspect to this where it almost just seems like this guy just wants to see games be cheaper and Sony not make as much money off them. And I get that. I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that either. But it's like, I don't know, man. Has Sony been secretly charging people like 10 to 15 more pounds in the UK every time they buy a digital game? Or £5? I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I think you might be right about that. He may be lacking a critical piece of info here, which is he may just not understand this industry well enough to realize that what Sony is doing is industry standard practice. And the only angle he may have to dig at here is the fact that Sony doesn't distribute their digital games to other vendors. And that, it remains to be seen if that's going to be enough for them to, to actually make anything come of this. So, all right, guys, sorry to keep you waiting here. I have a couple chats. I have RU46 N2 Ray, a longtime member, a member for 27 months. Really appreciate that support, my friend. You're saying here PlayStation cards can be bought at a FN market, but because there is no God of War card with a code for digital, then what do you spend my sorry, then what do I spend my PSN cards on? Keep up the great work. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thought. It's an interesting thought. You could buy the PlayStation cards, but you can't buy like game cards. Yeah, it does kind of make sense. Yeah, it does make sense. It does. I mean, look, it makes sense in this. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a shaky thing because like on one hand, I could kind of see how that is in some way giving Sony more control, but on the other hand, it's like doesn't it just equate to the same thing? Like doesn't it just equate to the same thing where it's like okay, I can't buy a dedicated God of War Ragnarok or Spider-Man 2 code, but what I can do is buy, like three $25 PSN cards and it's the like the vendor, if the vendor wanted to, they could, as far as I'm aware, somebody correct me if I'm wrong on this, they could charge the customer less for those cards, but the vendor would have to eat that cost, not Sony. So if here's a perfect example. I think like if you go to some of these wholesale distributors that require you to have a yearly membership, I think they do that where they'll sell you like a $50 PSN card for like $47 or something, or like $46, where you'll get a couple dollars of savings. And I guess the vendor is okay losing that because they're more than making up for it in their yearly subscriptions. But Sony's not eating that. So this is where it's just like you're saying the PSN cards are just an exchange of money. It's no transaction. You still leave the money at Sony's. If you buy a code in the store for a game, you'll leave the game at the shop. I mean, yeah, that's true, but I just, you know what I mean? Like I don't understand what's different here because it's like, I don't know. Like either way, I guess what I'm trying to say is either way, money is going to the retailer and the distributor, or the retail distributor. It's going to them, and it's also going to Sony. Like the money's still going where it's supposed to go is what I'm trying to say. And the only thing that could seemingly change here, is I think what I just mentioned, which is the retailer or the vendor could mark the price down, but they're not going to do that because they will have to eat that cost. So I don't know. It is a little bit weird to think about because it's just like at this point, are we getting into the semantics of it? It's like at the end of the day, no one fucking cares because it results in the same exact thing. Like I think, yeah, Xbox has gift cards. I think what would really make this entire conversation just flip on, upside down on its head is if Sony wasn't aggressively constantly doing digital sales all over their storefront for all games, AAA, AA, indie, VR. If they weren't doing that, I think this guy would have a real shot at taking Sony down here. But I think Sony has just, they can present all these different arguments that like this is the industry standard, like this is like we're not doing anything crazy, like we still sell PSN cards, we do all these sales on the digital storefront and our competitors do as well. So like there is a competitive digital market to an extent. It's just the fact that it doesn't extend in the case of Sony to, I mean, even again, even then you could just buy PSN cards. So I don't know. I don't know if this is going to go anywhere, man. But you got to admit, when you see that headline, $8 billion, bro. That's more. What is that, like? How much Capcom would cost to acquire? The biggest irony here too is the fact that this is in the UK, where it was like the whole CMA situation with Sony last year. But you're saying, MBG, think about any game when it's not on sale on the PlayStation Store. There's always sales going on third-party sites. That's the issue here. Every moment there isn't a sale on the PlayStation Store, consumers miss out. Okay, I get. Well, see, I'm trying to fully understand this here. So, like, are you, B Flesher? Are you saying? Are you saying that? That if I don't, dude, I don't think I quite under. Hold on, let me. Any game when it's not on sale on the PlayStation Store, there's always sales going on third-party sites. That's the issue here. Okay. I mean, it makes sense. It does. But I'm just, I guess I'm trying to think from a more practical standpoint. Like, all right, so if I go on the PlayStation Store right now, and I'm trying to think of a game that would likely not be on sale. Let's just say it probably is on sale, but I'll just throw Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart out there. On the PlayStation Store, digitally, if I want to buy Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart digitally, it's $70, right? If I go on Amazon and I search the game, there is no digital version for me to buy, just a physical version, and it's $35. So basically what you're saying is the fact that I can't go anywhere outside of Sony to buy a digital version of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart for a potentially cheaper price, like, that's the problem here. It makes sense. It makes sense. I get it. I see. That's where I'm saying, like, a part of me almost just kind of feels like, but that's good for physical media. Like, I know that this is going to be like a thing that maybe people disagree with, but like, this is almost becoming clear to me that what Sony is doing is actually good for physical media. It's bad for digital. It's good for physical. It's going to push more people. Fuck that $70 copy of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Buy that physical copy for $35. I don't know, man. Like, that's where my mind is going with this. But yeah, I can see why that is. Yeah, I could kind of see why that could be problematic. But you know what's it just seems to me what Sony is doing here is they're removing the ability, or they have removed the ability, for third-party vendors to undercut them. But my only question with that is, why would a third-party vendor undercut them in the first place? I mean, I guess, yeah, just not having that option is not good. But I feel like this isn't something we see. Like, all right, let's look at physical games. And guys, I apologize. I'm going to get to these super chats. I just want to make sure I'm getting my shit straight here. Let's look at physical games, right? We'll stick with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. If I see that Amazon is selling Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart for $35, you know, does this mean that I have what are the chances that I'm going to go and check Best Buy, I'm going to check GameStop, I'm going to check all these different areas and see, okay, somebody has to be selling it for less than 35, right? I mean, in my experience, it's just in my experience. I mean, maybe your experience has been very different. The only time I can recall ever finding a game like a relatively in-demand game, right? Like a newer game or a game that just is, again, people are still buying it. The only time I can ever really recall running into a better deal is usually from like something like eBay, right? Just like kind of a place where somebody's just looking to offload something, like they know, like they're not trying to get market price for it or even close to it. But I don't recall ever seeing a scenario where it's like, hey, Sony's charging $70 for this game digitally, but if I go if I check Amazon, it's being sold for 40. I don't like, there just hasn't been, as far as I can remember, again, but you know, maybe I'd have to do a little bit more looking around. If I go to GameStop, if I go to Best Buy, if I go to Walmart, if I go to Target, if I go to any of these places, it's still $40. Like, it's not like one of these retailers is just like, yo, we're selling it for even cheaper, like $20, $25, $30. Like, you're saying Paul Tassi just put out a article in the lawsuit. I'll check that out. Maybe that'll give us more context here. MBG, assuming why retailers price match to avoid the issue when competitors lower prices. Well, okay. Here's the last thing I'll say before I move on here and read these chats, and we'll read that article. I understand. I guess the only question I'm really left with here is this. Because again, this is either a real problem, like holy shit, like this is a problem, or it's just something that's being conflated and it's just not really that serious at all. You're saying I did manage to get Jak and Daxter 1 PS4 CD keys on eBay for a great bargain compared to the PS Store. The key worked, and I finished the game with a platinum trophy. Okay, that's a good. Yeah, see that example right there does tell me that there could be a problem here. There could be a problem because that. Interesting. Yeah. I do have one other angle here that I just the last question I have, and I think the answer to this question will help me out. Before I do that though, let's get some W's flowing in the chat. We have Hellbound 1981, another legend. Corey dropped 5 memberships. Hellbound comes in and does what he does best and drops 5 more for the channel, for the community, bring us up to 10 members on the day. Absolutely huge. Thank you so much, Hellbound.
Appreciate it.
Another very, very generous community member here who's always very giving to the channel. So let me add that to the counter. And there we go. Boom. 10 members, guys. So yeah, just a reminder, the 10 people who were gifted members today, memberships, if you're here in the chat, you now have access to the members lounge. So look forward to that. Here's the last question I have, and then I'm going to read these super chats. You guys are very patient with me. I appreciate that. I understand the concept of a Spider-Man 2 digital, card or whatever, that somebody could sell that for less than $70. Somebody could say, I'm going to sell this for $50 when everywhere else is selling it for $70, right? I understand that, and I understand that that's a good option to have for people. But if you look at what is stopping people? This is just the question I have. What is stopping people? What is stopping anybody from just buying like $75 PSN cards, PlayStation Store cards, and just doing that exact same thing? Here you go. Here's a $75 PlayStation Store card, but instead of selling it for $70, I'm selling it for $50. I'm selling it for $60. I'm giving you a better deal. like that's why I'm like, isn't it just the same thing? Isn't it the same thing? No, that's not a no, that's not a hypothetical. No, that's not a hypothetical because that you're saying this makes no sense. Okay, well, I'm asking if it's not. You're saying it's not the same. I'm just not understanding how it's not the same. Because if the person who whether if the third party seller buys a $75 card and they sell it for 60, that's a $15 savings for the person who purchased that card. They take that card, they input it on the PlayStation Store, and then they buy Spider-Man 2 for $74 with tax, right? But in reality, they only actually spent, the customer, that is, the consumer, they only spent $60. The digital game code in the store doesn't give 30% to Sony. Well, yeah, because Sony gets all of it. They're getting I mean, the 30% you're mentioning, I think that's for, well, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm not just understanding this for some reason, but why would the retailer want to take a loss, or why would the seller want to take that? Well, see, that brings us to the question, like, you know, why does anybody sell? Why does a person who has a digital code for Spider-Man 2, like they bought a PS5, they have a digital code for Spider-Man 2, but they already have the game, what prompts them to sell it for a cheaper price? I'm not going to sell this digital code on eBay for $70. I'm going to sell it for $60. What prompts them to do that? And I think when we look at it through that lens, you know, we begin to understand that the only time you're really going to see these lower prices is when is in like rare instances, you know, where like whoever is giving you that bargain or that deal is in a unique position to be able to afford to do so. And it's like the reason why it's easy for that person to do that is because they didn't pay anything for that game. They paid $500 for the console. They got a free copy. Sony gave that copy to them for free when they bought the PS5, and that person decides, I want to make a quick $60 on this. So essentially, they saved $60 on their PS5 purchase. I'm getting in, you know, really into the weeds here, but saying a retailer could take a loss on their end, but Sony gets the same either way. That's why I'm saying I just don't understand the argument that Sony needs to sell game keys. Sony needs to sell game keys but like they sell currency. The currency is the game key. It's the same thing. It is the same thing. That's what I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. You're saying still no card. What does that even mean? Still no card. I don't know. Again, I just am trying to. I'll see if maybe this Alex Neil guy can explain it to us. That's all. And to be clear, I'm not saying any of this to defend Sony, because again, I'm indifferent to the whole digital storefront thing. I'm just saying, if I wanted to try to get a better deal on the PlayStation Store right now, right? I would be looking to see if there's anywhere I can find cheaper PSN cards. That's what I would be looking for. You know? How is that any different than if I wanted to buy a digital Alan Wake 2 key, you know, looking around to see who's selling it for cheaper? Like, I just don't understand the difference here. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I tend to do that at times. All right, guys. To everybody who donated a super chat, thank you so much for being patient with me. We have Supremacy 101 saying, I'm not worried about it. I'm almost certain they'll be fine. And before long, get back to selling more consoles. While Microsoft continues to buy more publishers until there are but a few left. Yeah, back to normal. I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. If Sony does somehow end up losing this, yeah, it's going to be felt for sure. Like they're going to, I don't think they'll be making, I don't want to say they're not going to make any acquisitions, but they'll definitely have to rethink any major acquisitions because that's a huge, like, that's a massive chunk of money for Sony. They will feel that, you know, $7.9 billion. Yeah, no, I don't know, man. I'm not, the thing is when I'm talking about this, I'm not worried about it, you know, in any way, because it's just like, I mean, that sucks for you, Sony. Like, I wouldn't want to be in your shoes right now where, you know, you got to have this legal battle over something like this. But Sony's a huge corporation, man. Like, they're probably used to this shit. The only thing that probably surprised Sony in this instance is that it's actually going to proceed. I'm pretty sure Sony was thinking this was just going to get dismissed. And so they're probably really fucking annoyed that they have to deal with this shit now. But you know, Sony's lawyers are probably informing them, you know, whether or not they actually have something to be worried about. And yeah, it just seems like it's going to be a headache for Sony more than anything. And for us, it's not really going to mean much until we get the result. But it's not going to impact PS5 sales. It's not like people in the UK are not going to just stop supporting Sony now, you know? And that to me is kind of the funniest thing is like the amount of people that are probably like reading this headline and like, all right, yeah, I'm still going to just go buy my games digitally. I'm cool, you know? Because it's just like, again, they're not being told like why you're being dude, listen. This is the equivalent of me saying to you, imagine if I titled this stream, Sony is ripping you off right now. And I basically just said in this stream, Sony's ripping you off. They're taking more money from you than they should be. And they should give it some of it back. What's the first thing every single person in this chat is going to ask me? You know, like the first thing everyone's going to ask is like, how? Like, why? You know, like, and imagine if I was just like, well, because they are. Yeah. And it's, you know, that's the whole thing is like, I'm waiting on a more thorough explanation before I can really figure out how outraged we should all be. However, if you're one of the PlayStation players in the UK, you're probably just sitting here like, well, hey, I mean, if Sony ends up giving me some money, I'm not going to have a problem with that. I wouldn't have a problem with that. If Sony lost the lawsuit and money was coming my way, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I'd say, bring it on in. I'm welcoming that. Probably end up just spending it on PlayStation again. Dude, that's the funniest shit. I just have to say, like, the funniest thing about this lawsuit is that most of the people who end up getting money back from Sony will probably just spend it on the PlayStation Store again, which is the funniest shit to think about. You're just gonna buy more games. That's funny. That's funny. But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that. Gets money from Sony, gives it back to Sony. I mean, you would still be getting more from it, you know? Ultimately. You're saying PS Plus isn't a ripoff to you? You feel like you're getting your money's worth? MBG, they're going to clip that, dude. They clip. What don't they clip? What don't they clip, bro? We got Rashdom V2 with a super chat. He says, this is a minor, but still a red flag. If Sony's doing this behind the scenes, what other things is Sony doing to take advantage as the market leader? Well, this is why I've always been sure to say to people that Sony is not innocent. And we can't paint Sony as a victim or like they are not some greedy corporation. All of these, like it's business. It's all business. Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, everybody in between. It's business. It is inherently driven by greed, by the need to make more money, make more profit, keep shareholders happy. It's just the way it goes. Um, but yeah, it's just like it's no different than thinking than the people out there right now that think that Microsoft actually care, like Microsoft really wants to save them money. Like obviously you have to be extremely naive to think that that's really what Microsoft wants. Like no, Microsoft just wants to convince you that they want to save you money so that in the long run they can get more money from you. It's pretty smart. But it's just Sony. The thing about Sony is I don't think Sony, maybe I have a wrong read on this and you tell me, but I don't recall Sony ever giving me the feeling that they're in it to give me the best deal possible. Sony, as far as I'm concerned, and I pay pretty damn close attention to this brand, the PlayStation brand, from what I can tell, they just straight up tell you, like, we're looking to make more money. We want to be profitable. We're looking to grow. And we're going to sell you our games for $70. And the reason for that is because we want to keep the quality high, but also we want to make a profit. And this is where it's just like, I don't have a problem. It's like the PlayStation Portal. The amount of people I've seen like complaining that PlayStation Portal's overpriced. It's $200. Like, you don't fucking have to buy it. You can talk all day about how useless of a product it is, how it to you it might be the biggest ripoff in the world at that price, but you don't have to buy it. But you can't sit here and like make it sound like that the individual who says, you know what, I think this is a pretty cool product and $200 isn't that much for me, I'm going to buy it. You can't fucking condemn that person, because it's just like, that's why Sony made it. And they pretty much told you, like, this is for anybody who wants this specific device. All it does is remote play. If you want it, buy it. $200. And it's always so weird to me that people try to like frame it where it's like, what the fuck is wrong with Sony? Like, I don't know. I actually don't know. Like, is there something wrong here? Like, should I be angry that they're making these earbuds now? It's just so fucking weird to me. It's so weird to me, man, that, there are times where I think people really should be outraged about certain things, but other times you can just tell, like, people are just trying to find anything to be outraged about. But when it comes to Sony doing some shit behind the scenes that's unsavory, of course, dude. Come on. We can't kid ourselves here. It's not just Sony. Listen, some of the shit that it has leaked out, I remember that everybody has thought or did think under Jim Ryan's tenure, right? As Jim Ryan being the CEO of PlayStation, a lot of people were saying, like, damn, they're arrogant again. They're arrogant. And a lot of people thought that maybe Jim Ryan's a bit arrogant. And there was like that leak, assuming it was true, it was a while ago, but it was like a quote that leaked out from Jim Ryan where when he was asked about Game Pass, he was just like, no, we're not worried about Game Pass. Like, we're selling more consoles than Game Pass is getting subscribers in a less amount of time. And it was like, that's not shady or anything, or like, not Sony taking advantage of stuff, but it just, it gave you an idea of like, yeah, they are a little bit arrogant, just a little bit, but you could easily just say it's maybe being confident. But Jim would never say something. I don't think he would say something like that publicly, like, and if he were to say that, he would word it very differently. But yeah, when we got the leaked emails from Microsoft and you saw the way Matt Booty, who's supposed to be such a nice, swell guy, talking about, like, even the fucking emails from Phil Spencer, you can tell, like, they talk differently. These are business executives that behave very differently behind the scenes. Understandably, like it's not surprising. Like of course they do. Of course they do. But it's just like I would say to anybody who thinks that any corporation that is worth billions of dollars, they're all likely doing some type of unsavory stuff to some extent with their business. I mean, that's just how it goes, man. I don't know why, but it's part of the business world. Um, but yeah, Xbox trying to buy Nintendo is shady AF. I would say it is, but it's kind of not, because you're talking about the same company that like in the early 2000s just was like, so Nintendo, we want to talk about buying you, and then they were like, you serious? um. Ice Rezo, you're saying third-party digital stores are big in Europe. Nintendo and Microsoft allowed it. New games are 10 to 15% for digital codes from third party. Well, that's first off, that's very interesting. I didn't know that. Second off, my question is, are they selling PSN cards at 10 to 15% off? Because again, like, if they can afford to sell a game key for 10 to 15% less, what would stop them from being able to afford to sell a currency card for 15 to 10% less? And here's another question. Like, if the answer to that question, Ice, is that actually like they don't sell these currency cards for cheaper, I would want to know why. Like, does Sony not allow it? Is it like a kind of mandate Sony has with retailers or something? Is it just the retailer doesn't put them in the same category and that's why? Like, I could see it logistically speaking. Yeah. I mean, I could see it like being something that, yeah, two different categories, mixing things up now. I don't know. But that would be the question I have, Ice. But yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that about Europe. Victory says this lawsuit is some next level concern trolling. I mean, yeah, it does kind of read that way. Certainly, I do. That's why I'm kind of on the fence about it, because it's like, yeah, I'm all for physical games and options and not giving too much power to the corporations, but on the other hand, it's like this guy gives me like I need to be outraged vibes, and I just am not entirely like I just like I'm kind of looking around like, wait, why am I? Hold on, why am I supposed to be outraged again? I need to, like, you need to tell me why. Sony ripped you off. It's like, but how? Like, I need, you know what I mean? that's what makes this so funny to me, is I'm just not. I just feel a little bit kind of left out, if that makes sense, where I'm just not fully grasping. And it could just, somebody might just say it's because you're stupid and you don't get it. And that could be true. I'm not doubting that. But yeah. I'll check out that Paul Tassi article next. Maybe that'll help me out. You guys were telling me they just put out that Forbes put out an article on it. Be curious to see what it says. Supremacy 101 says, F that digital copy, buy the physical while you still can. Cough Alan Wake 2, cough PS5 Slim. Sony isn't doing anything the others aren't doing already. I mean, yeah, it's so the whole PS5 Slim situation, I mean, I don't have any problems with that. I think them actually offering a detachable disk drive is in a way even better than the way it was previously. But Alan Wake 2, I've told you over and over again how I just do not understand why Alan Wake 2 was digital. It's not even, for me, it's not even a price thing. It's just, why? Like, why are you purposely giving customers... See, giving customers less options, I think a lot of times it's often in the name of, well, we want more control. And with more control, we can get more from you. And, cut out the middleman. I mean, it seems pretty clear, at least according to Circana, that Alan Wake 2 sales would have been better if they had a physical copy. Like, they just straight up would have sold more, maybe even significantly more. And that's just what's strange to me, is it's almost like you would think that them deciding not to make a physical copy and go digital only is in an effort to make more money, but it almost seems like it may in some cases it might just backfire, where it's like, dude, people are looking to buy Christmas gifts to put under the tree, to give to people. And I mean, you could make the argument, well, if Sony made an Alan Wake digital code, you could still exchange that gift. But it's like, well, I guess, but it's just not the same, you know? It's not. I don't know. Did I see the Baldur's Gate 3 physical coming? I did, yeah. You're saying it's not illegal, just unethical. There's a huge difference. Yeah. Yeah, see, that's where things get really messy with this shit. Like when people confuse what's legal and what's not with what is unethical and what's not. Because when it comes to ethics and business, again, those two things don't usually mix well together. I mean, we would do well to see more corporations operate in a more ethical manner. But the world is a cold, harsh place. What do you want me to say? I don't know. Let's see. Ice Rezo again with 2 more super chats here. He says games are cheaper in different countries, economies. UK is in the Eurozone. It's cheaper to buy games from Croatia. Steam tries to fight it and got denied. Yeah, that's a huge aspect of this I didn't even consider. That's probably pretty integral to this conversation to a certain extent anyway. I mean, you can't. I'll never fault anybody for trying to get the best deal they can, you know? I know we talk about Microsoft a lot on this channel and Game Pass specifically, and the whole value, and it's like I think people have always, I think, misunderstood that I'm not against getting a better deal or better value. But I'm just also not against, you know, paying for, like, if somebody tells me like, hey, this is a quality thing that took a lot of time and money, and this is how much we need to charge for it, for, you know, to justify it, I'm not against that either. I just, you know, I think that I just never listen. It's kind of, I know this is a little bit different than what we're talking about, but it kind of just, it's always been strange to me that people have always kind of taken this stance with Sony where it's like Sony just wants to rip you off. And that's been like a common theme this generation. And I understand why, but it's always been kind of strange to me that people, not that they get mad that Sony is upfront and just basically says, we're going to increase the price of this, or we're going to ask for more money for that. That's not ever confused me, because it's like, well, of course people will be upset about that and not happy about it. Because no one wants to spend more money on stuff than, the idea is we either want to keep it the same or spend less, ideally, right? Yeah, like nickel and diming. It's happened a little bit, certainly, this generation. Probably will continue to a certain extent. But what's always been weird to me is that, like, I don't get how people can look at Sony doing that and then still kind of paint them as the deceptive company, if that makes sense. Because it's like, how can a company that is just straight up telling you we're going to charge you more, like we are increasing these prices, or, we're doing this and we're doing that, how can they be the ones to also be painted as deceptive. I always thought that was a little bit weird because it's like, dude, this is why I just feel like at some point I think what we've been seeing recently is the erosion of that whole kind of cloud, I guess you could say, around Sony, where it's like Sony is a deceptive, lying company, you know? It went from that, and I guess maybe Jim Ryan contributed to that to a certain extent, which would explain some of it. But I think it's been like kind of transformed where it's like now people I think are just being a little bit more straightforward about it, where it's like, okay, maybe Sony isn't a lying, deceptive company, but they're greedy, you know? And it's like, yeah, yeah, that's not, has that ever not been the case with Sony? I mean, maybe there have been times where it's been a little better, but I just don't know. Like, has there? I mean, I'm almost kind of asking seriously. Like, has there ever been a time where Sony was just making it clear, like, we just, you know what? The last time probably was with the PS3 when their back was against the wall. You know, Sony probably felt like, well, we gotta win people over. But that's what I just think is funny is that these things kind of, they swing back and forth really. And at the end of the day, something that remains true for all corporations is they're not here to do anything other than try to extract as much out of you as they can. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It can be, but it's just like inherently not. Like, of course, they want to get as much from you as they can as a customer. I just think it's so strange that people, when like the people are so quick to kind of just either A, make assumptions, or B, just trust, right? Like, something people have tried to convince me of is that Sony doesn't actually need to charge $70 for their games. I remember at the beginning of this generation when Jim Ryan made this announcement, not everybody, but there were a lot of people that were like, this is bullshit. Sony's just lying. They just want to squeeze even more out of you. You know, why get one when you can get two from the same customer? And I remember just thinking, like, well, I mean, yeah, like that wouldn't be surprising. But then I also thought to myself, but Sony knew they would get a lot of backlash for doing this. So it just kind of came down to Occam's razor where I'm like, they would probably realistically only announce something like that if they had to. So I am inclined to believe them. Like, I'm inclined to believe that Sony actually had to do this. And when we got the fucking leak of how much The Last of Us Part 2 cost to make, not counting marketing, and Horizon Forbidden West, where when you throw marketing costs, it's probably $300 million plus, it like became very clear, like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, I can kind of understand now. I mean, again, like, I kind of trusted that what they were saying was true and they weren't just trying to rip me off, but we ended up getting confirmation that it's like, yeah, look at these numbers, dude. Like, it's crazy. And it's like when people were always kind of wondering, like, why isn't Microsoft buying or spending more money to get bigger games into Game Pass? Like, wouldn't that be a really smart thing for them to do? And just kind of looking at it as like, well, it's because they want to be cheap about it. And it's like, well, no, it's that the price that these games were asking could fund like multiple new AAA games. And so they just decided, you know what, it would be better to just spend our money to just own something. So I don't know. I just think it's strange sometimes that when we have a conversation like this about how Sony might be in some kind of legal trouble here, or they're going to have to do this case. It's like, well, I don't know. It's my I guess my approach to this is I never like to assume that my interest is at the forefront of any corporation, including Sony. And anytime a company tries to convince me that my interest is at the front of the line, I immediately put a question mark there and like I'm skeptical. Like, what are you trying to sell me? What's the catch? Because I know there is one. And that's why, I know that people like me and others kind of get made fun of where it's like, I, yeah, I just accept that video games are an expensive hobby, and video games themselves and video game products are pretty expensive. For some reason, like, it's become cool to like just kind of make fun of people for that, where it's like, I don't know. I I I don't know why that is. I guess maybe some people, I don't know if it's entitlement. I don't know if it's just because more things are more accessible at cheaper prices, but there's costs being paid on somebody else, or something else is paying the cost, like your privacy or your data or whatever it might be. I don't know. I don't know if all of this is kind of culminating together to create that, but yeah, man, it's just like, I don't necessarily have a problem with paying for what feels like it's going to be worth it. And I guess I would just feel like I would, if you're able to afford it, of course, if you can, I totally understand. But if you're able to, just try to support what you can. If you like something, be willing to support it. That's all. Anyway, I don't know why I went on that giant tangent. Ice, you're saying here, MBG, you're thinking from an American perspective. For instance, new games cost $35 in Argentina because of foreign exchange. Buy the codes there. Damn. That's such a I I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I wouldn't want to do something like that for the exact reason I just mentioned, where it's like, I bought Lies of P, right? And I thought Lies of P was a $70 game, and I was ready to pay $70. And it turns out it wasn't. I actually ended up getting it, I think, for $50, or 60. I think it's a $60 game. And I was like, oh, a $10 savings. That's nice. But it wouldn't have mattered to me, because it's like, my intent here is to reward this developer. Like, I want them to have my money, because they have, like, as far as I'm concerned, they've earned it. They've put out a game. It's AAA quality. It's high quality. It's gotten good reviews. They made a physical version of it, which I'm like, yes, thank you. And so it's like, I'm just not of the mindset where it's like, I want to get your product for as cheap as, like, if I couldn't afford it, of course I would try to do that, if I really still wanted to play it. But because I can afford it, and I'm lucky to be able to afford it, it's like, I want to reward this dev team. Like, I know it's just one sale, but it's just important for me to know that, like, I want to send the message, like, I appreciate this and I would like to see more of it. Here is the full price. I want to pay the full price because I feel like it's worth it. Now, don't mistake that with, and this is where people get really stupid with the shit they say. We're like, oh, so you want them to increase the price? You'd be asking them to pay $100 for quality, right? Like, no, if Lies of P was $100, I would have to take a big step back and really think a lot harder. They're asking for like $30 more than the, than the normal retail price of other games, AAA games. Chances are I'd probably I'd compare it to other games and say, what is this game offering that other games aren't? And when you realize that, well, nothing, they just wanted to charge you more money for it because they feel like it's worth it, I'd probably turn back and say, yeah, I don't know that I want to pay $100 for this game when everybody else is charging 70, and I just hate when people bring that up, because it's like, no, we're not asking to be charged more money. We're just trying to communicate to the artists, to the developers, and to the people who have worked on this that you've earned our money. That's it. That's what it comes down to. So, it's weird stuff, man. Saying it's currently on sale for $48. Oh, it's even better. It's even better. But yeah, I don't know. This is always just kind of, it always kind of comes down to, what people consider valuable to them. And I don't fault any company for trying to, even like looking at Microsoft and what they're doing. I don't fault any company for trying to find different ways for people to perceive value. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't know. I just have always kind of felt like when it comes to video games, I am pretty passionate about them, obviously. I care a lot about them. And the price, like, to be honest, like, the pricing of things has never really been something that I've ever fixated on too much. It's just not. Like, I've seen, I've seen many examples in this industry of blatant greed, as in, like, we are just actively trying to, you gave us an inch, we're going to actively sprint and take a mile, and just see if we can get all of that out of you. Like, yeah, we have seen that. And even at certain times, Sony has been like that. And that's why we do have to be a little bit worried sometimes. And we have to be careful if we're not just willingly throwing all of our money at Sony. We have to evaluate, like, okay, what is it you're asking for? What is the product you're giving in return? What is the service you're giving in return? Is it worth it? Somebody in my chat today just said to them, the price of PlayStation Plus is worth it. Now, there's somebody right around the corner waiting to tell you why it's not worth it, and you're wrong. It's like, that's subjective, and I don't understand that. But then somebody else might come in and say, well, what about what people say about Game Pass? Like, isn't it also subjective when a person says, I think Game Pass is great? I was like, yes, it is. But that's where I think, again, people kind of confuse the conversations, where it's like, listen, comparing PlayStation Plus to Game Pass and asking the question, which is the better value, versus comparing PlayStation Plus's business model to Game Pass's business model and asking, what are the potential long-term ramifications? They are two separate things. And I think people don't quite realize that when they're having these conversations, saying both are trash. Damn. Devil Shooter making his stance clear. Yo, both are trash, bro. I don't give a shit about either. I don't really care about PlayStation Plus either, man. Like, I mean, I'm always interested to see what the monthly games are, and on occasion I do play some of these monthly games, on rare occasion. But when it comes to PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, I frankly just am not interested in the least. The only time I will ever, if I were to ever embrace PlayStation Plus and Game Pass, it would be because I feel like I have to. Like, when Hellblade 2 comes out, man, I won't lie, I am tempted to, like, check out the game through Game Pass on my PC. But that's exactly what I'm talking about, where it's like, I don't know that I want to do that, because if I'm sold on Hellblade 2 and I'm like, damn, this game looks really good, I actually really want to play it. I mean, I'm tempted to, well, you can't buy a physical copy for PC, and that's kind of, like, I'm assuming there would be a physical copy of Hellblade. I would probably just buy an Xbox and buy the game physically. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I not only do I want to continue again to support physical media, but I would, I know that, like, I know they don't need my money. I know that Ninja Theory doesn't need my money. They're covered by Microsoft. But it's like, if you made something that I think is this good, I don't mind paying for it. Like, I'm not, but then again, Microsoft is like, no, we don't mind giving it to you through Game Pass. But we'll see. What's so special about physical media? I don't think that there's anything special about it. I just think it's just different. It's traditional. It's, I think, important. I don't want to say it's special. I think it's important. That's all. Richard, you're saying compare Game Pass and PlayStation Plus is a Xbox Live to PS Plus is an Xbox L. PS Plus isn't trying to be Game Pass. Yeah, that's true as well. I don't think it's really wise to try to compare them directly, because it is true that, PlayStation has made it clear, like, we are not trying to be Game Pass. We are not Game Pass. And I think Game Pass has done a pretty good job at making it clear that they're not, they're not the same as PlayStation Plus either. So, MBG, it's not good that your first thought is there a physical copy? That's not my first thought. My first thought is, does this game look good? And if the answer to that is yes, then obviously that's, I purchased Alan Wake 2 knowing there's no physical copy because from what I saw, the game looked good, and that was my first thought. And I didn't let it stop me from playing it and experiencing it. And I don't regret it. But my next thought is, okay, is there a physical copy? I can't help it. And we have Corey, the legend Landiga. He's still doing some heavy lifting today, guys. Corey, the legend, drops 5 more membership gifts. Guys, we need some W's in the chat for this man. He is just too kind and too generous to this community. Thank you so much for that, Corey. I mean, honestly, there have been so many times you're the MVP. Like I said, just a reminder, starting next week, there's going to be a little something, just a little tiny. I see Exley's got something to say about Alan Wake 2. There's going to be just a tiny bit more recognition, a little something that I'm going to start next week for the top 4 donors of the channel. Like, the 4 people who that week have supported my channel, my content the most. There'll be a little something special for you. I just, want to remind you guys of that because I'm curious to see how you guys respond to it. It's a little nerdy, but I think it's fitting. It's fitting. You'll see what I'm talking about. But Corey, thank you so much, man. You brought us up to 15 members on the day. And without this continued support from you guys, I wouldn't be able to do what I do here. And I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful to be able to do what I do here. Seriously. And as I say that, we have another legend. Dude, Exley and Corey Corey and Hellbound. These 3 dudes are always here. Just boom, 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 boom. Just always supporting the community with more gifts. Exley 3000 drops 5 more memberships, bringing us up to 20 members. 20 W's in the chat. Guys,
thank you.
We are now only 5 away from hitting our goal again. That consistency is incredible. It is. We have a special community here, man. Thank you guys so much. Really. It's awesome to see. Saying, what do I think PlayStation Japan is showing tomorrow since they teased something for November 23rd? Oh, I'm assuming nothing of significance. I've been seeing a couple of people talk about that, like, oh, PlayStation Japan is teasing something. I'm like, oh, I don't think so, guys. If I had to guess, because we've seen this, I think multiple times in the past, they're going to collaborate with a musician. That's what, like a Japanese artist of some kind. I wouldn't be shocked at all if that's what they're doing, because that's usually what they do. And guys, as I'm saying that, we have both Hellbound 1981 coming in again with another 5 memberships, and then Jake Skew 27 follows it up, getting us past the 25 member mark with a membership gift of his own. We are now at 26 members. You did it. You crushed the goal again. You hit 25. Incredible. I mean, honestly, you guys are amazing. I'm going to
have the games
update this, but I can't because we have a full-blown membership train going. Toolman55 says he's got to pay it forward as well. He wants to pay it forward. He drops a gift on top of Jake Skew and Hellbound and all these guys keeping the member train going. 27 members. I need some guys. You already have the W's flowing. We need more. We need more because you guys are just continually showing incredible support. There's a Venom for you, man. And a
kept you waiting, huh?
And I always forget that I have a snake soundbite. So I'm gonna update the member goal, but I can't yet. I can't do it yet because Exley 3000 actually wants to keep it going. Exley says I need 5 more people to join the members lounge today. He drops another 5 members. Exley 3000. He's got something to tell me about Alan Wake 2, but he says, hold on. It's just so funny, dude. I always see you pop it off in the chat and it makes me laugh. But thank you so much, man. Seriously, that is amazing to see. You got us to 32 members. And as I am saying that, look at these guys. They're always trading blows here. I swear, it's like seeing Corey and Exley. They just go back and forth. Hellbound jumps in. Corey drops another 5. Another 5. This is incredible. This isn't seriously. I really cannot thank you guys enough. That support is amazing to see. Dude, listen, I really hope, I meant to ask you guys, right? Like, I'm hoping that you guys who are gifting memberships, and especially those of you who are keeping your memberships month over month, I'm hoping you're enjoying the members lounge so far. I do. I really hope you're enjoying it, because one of the things that I really want to try to do is make sure that for all of you guys who are gifting memberships, for everybody who is keeping their membership month over month, I really want it to feel like you're being given something. There's more incentive there. There's truly something unique there for you, something that, makes it feel worthwhile. So I hope that's been helping you guys and, making you feel better, making you feel even better about it, because you guys really deserve it. So Corey drops 5 more gifts, and then Toolman55. Toolman55 drops another gift. Guys, 38 members. I'm going to update this goal. That's incredible. Just like that. We went from 10 members to 38. The support is amazing. Love to see it, man. Let me update this, and I will continue reading some of these chats. 38. And there we go. Good stuff, man. How behind am I on chats? I think I'm pretty caught up with the chats. I have one from... I see that Snumpkin X almost missed this one. A member for 4 months says... Oh, I lost it. Hold on. W Hellbound 1981. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah, Hellbound. Hellbound is always here, too. These guys really are legends, man. Toolman, Corey, Exley, Hellbound, Jake Skew, all you guys, seriously. They really love this community, and that's just amazing to see. We have Zeke, member for 5 months. Appreciate that, bud. You're saying, MBG, so does this mean we can start a lawsuit that the USA only has 3 flavors of Kit Kat while Japan has over 12? Yes. The answer to that question is absolutely yes. I was not aware of this. This is a problem. This is a problem. I'm not even the biggest fan of Kit Kat, but you're going to sit here and tell me that Japan has over 12 flavors? Are you kidding me? Like, is that true? I mean, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't just make that up. Is that true? Because that's an absurd difference, man. If you said like Japan has like 5 or 6 flavors, I would say, well, that's still a little unfair, but okay. But 12? I mean, what are these flavors? I never understood this. This is, I think, a pretty common thing with like foods and snacks and candy specifically, where vanilla mint cherry. Are you shitting me? Nah, is that a real flavor? That is bullshit, because that sounds incredible. You're saying it's not. It better not be. That sounds amazing. Vanilla mint cherry anything sounds amazing. Holy shit. Faberdud drops a super chat. He's adding Zeke, saying America only needs 3 flavors of Kit Kat: red, white, and blue. Damn. Faberdud bringing out his patriotism over Kit Kat. I mean, that's like the most American thing I've ever seen on this channel. Faberdud, a true patriot. They have a wasabi Kit Kat? Really? Green tea? That's so funny though, man. That is really funny to me, because there's this like one store I go to on rare occasion. I forget the name of it. It's just like it's just this random store, and they like import a bunch of stuff from Japan, and they have like this little section where it's just a bunch of Japanese snacks. And I was even like their packaging looks cooler. Like even for some of the same flavors, the packaging actually looks cooler. And I'm like, what? I don't understand. I'm sure there's some rhyme or reason for it, but I never quite understood like why do these companies that make these products, they have like all these different specific flavors and they're region based. Why? I mean, is it, I don't know, like do barbecue chips like not really, like can you get barbecue chips? Is that like what's the, I need to know what's the American exclusive here. Okay? Cuz you're telling me they got 12 Kit Kats. That sounds like a lot of Japanese exclusive Kit Kats, bro. I need to know what do we have that's exclusive? You know I love my exclusives. I'm sorry, man. That just really caught me off guard because that sounds almost unbelievable. Having my meltdown over Kit Kats. We have Richard Rodriguez. Richard Rodriguez says, guys, in the midst of all this talk about Kit Kat, I need to pay it forward as well. I want to pay it forward. I'm going to drop a membership as well. Richard brings us to 39 members. Guys, look at that. Look at that. We are now closer to hitting a second goal thanks to all of your incredible support. Richard, I really appreciate it, bud. Thank you for all of your support. Diabetes, hypertension. Oh my God. I would say they're American exclusive, but they're definitely not. They're definitely not. Speaking of Kit Kat, I gotta listen. I like the Kit Kat. I do. But we just got done. Well, not done. I mean, we did here, me and my family. We just finished all our Halloween candy. And let me tell you, as much as I love the Kit Kat, I never go for it. I never do. Like, it's there, it's red, it stands out, but you're saying they go great with coffee? I have to try that because that actually sounds pretty good. But I'm always going for everything else. You know what I discovered? Listen, I don't know. I think I'm an old man. My wife kind of laughs at me for this. Do you know what my favorite candy is? Like my favorite candy bar? 100 grand. Have any of you guys ever had this? They're like kind of rare now, as far as I can tell. And I was really disappointed to see all the Halloween candy this year, and there was not a single 100 grand to be found. I'm like, are you kidding me? Got a couple Baby Ruths in there. Baby Ruth's good. But the 100 grands, oof, they're next level. They're my favorite. Kit Kat, I like it, but I also discovered I like Milky Way a lot. I think Milky Way is pretty underrated. You know what I think is overrated? And this might be a really unpopular opinion. I think Snickers might be overrated because out of all the candy that was there was more Snickers than anything else. It was an overwhelming amount of Snickers. And I'm like, I just don't want to eat a Snickers. Like, this is making me dislike Snickers because it's like, this is too much. Is it just me saying F? Blue Fox Strip says F you, bro. F you. You're saying a whatchamacallit is close to 100 grand? I've heard of them too. I never had a whatchamacallit. You're saying Snickers sucks. Reese's is good. All right, we got to stop talking about candy. I'm trying to. I had too much candy this Halloween. I did. A Ritter Sport? I never heard of that. Never heard of that. What about ice cream Snickers? I've had the Snickers ice cream. It's pretty good. Yeah. There isn't much ice cream I don't like, dude. I'll eat like any ice cream really. I mean, really, like, yeah, I really can't think of any ice cream that I wouldn't enjoy. What do y'all know about spicy Mexican candy? I know nothing about that, but that's interesting. So I don't think I've ever had any type of spicy candy. I don't know if I would enjoy that. Butterfingers are pretty good. I gotta stop talking about candy though, man, because I always have the worst sweet tooth. Dude, it's bad. It's really bad. I don't know. I think I'm just addicted to sugar. I know that when you eat sugar, it just makes you crave more sugar. and diabetes does run in my family. I think I'm okay. I feel okay, but you know, I gotta definitely, especially now I'm getting older, I gotta take it easy. Rolos are good, yeah. All right, I gotta move on. You guys are gonna make me go get some candy. But yeah, Richard, thank you for the membership gift as well, dude. So we're gonna move on from this topic. We still have a couple of other topics to discuss before we end this stream. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Like, look, just my final say on this before I move on to the next topic is I don't want to see Sony have to just like, suffer massive consequences if it's not truly justified. So I'm going to be really interested to see how this plays out and see if Sony really is, I mean, if they're actually ripping people off and trying to create some kind of like digital monopoly, then yeah, I would like to see that dismantled. But I'm just not fully sold on what this guy is saying and the way he's presenting it, and I'll be curious to see how this trial plays out. So we are going to move on to the next topic, though, and this one might turn out to be pretty significant. I have a write-up here from VGC. Gears of War franchise narrative director joins God of War studio Sony Santa Monica. The former franchise narrative director of the Gears of War series has now joined Santa Monica. Bonnie Jean Ma. That's an Bonnie Jean Ma. Jean and Ma are two. Okay, so Bonnie Jean Ma is swapping Gears of War for God of War, announcing on X, formerly Twitter, that she has joined the Santa Monica studio as a narrative director. All right, let's do this, she wrote. I'm so excited to share my news. I've joined Sony Santa Monica as a narrative director. I'm beyond thrilled as narrative director, not a narrative director, as narrative director. Got to make sure I get that correct. I'm beyond thrilled to be working with this team and the studio. Let's go. Ma, who originally had a background in film and TV, entered the games industry in 2008, where she was a writer and narrative designer on Warhammer 40,000, Space Marine, and Warhammer 40,000 Dark Millennium Online. She then joined Black Tusk Studio, now known as the Coalition, in 2014, where she became franchise narrative manager of the Gears of War IP. Other roles at the Coalition included narrative producer on Gears of War 4 and narrative designer for Gears 5, before she left to join Relic Entertainment, where she was the narrative lead and lead writer on Age of Empires 4. She returned to the Coalition in 2019 and became franchise narrative director for Gears of War, overseeing narrative development on Gears titles and extended universe publications. Following a 2-year stint working on an unannounced open-world game at Tencent, owned by Team Montreal, she has now joined Sony Santa Monica and is now the narrative lead. The article concludes by saying it's not yet clear what she's working on for her first role. It says it appears she may be in charge of developing the narrative God of War games and other media, such as books and Amazon's upcoming TV series. Earlier this year, Ben Pendergast, who played the Norse god Tyr in the series, implied his character may be returning in some form, reportedly saying, I'll say this isn't the last you've seen of Tyr. And so, yeah, we're kind of waiting to see if that was in regards to a DLC or whatever. But, Jake, you're saying MBG, I sent you an email. Oh, I'll check really quick. What do you guys think of this, though? Oh, yeah, I got your email. Oh, that's pretty interesting. I must have missed this. Ex-Rockstar developer sheds light on a long-lost game. Agents development troubles. Really interesting stuff. Maybe if I have time, I'll check that out. But how do you guys feel about this? I mean, it is interesting. I don't know if I necessarily. I don't want to say I'm feeling not good about it. The question I have is, how good was Gears 4 and Gears 5? How good was that narrative? Or those narratives? Like what about these Warhammer games I'm not familiar with? Age of Empires 4, was that good? I'm just not sure. I don't know. You're saying, well, here's the thing. You're saying it's like getting a B team employee. It could be the other way. it could be the other way, where it's like maybe because you have to think like she tried to get this job. Maybe she feels that, I don't know, maybe she can do a better job with the studio than she has with the coalition. I don't know. I'm a little bit torn on it because it's like this news. The thing that's weird to me about this news is being presented like it's a big deal, you know. But it's like in what, like, is it though? I don't know. So I know people really like the earlier Gears games, like 1 through 3. People really loved those. I did too, but she didn't have any involvement with those. So we're talking about Gears 4 and Gears 5. You're saying Gears 4 and 5 story has been kind of mid, but she's using an established IP. Maybe with another IP she does better. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't want to cast judgment and say, oh, well, she's going to do a bad job or she's going to ruin God of War. No. That's the thing, is I don't think Gears 4 or 5, as far as I can tell, they were not bad. Right? Like, Gears 4 I did play. Gears 5 I didn't. I won't lie. Gears 4 I didn't really care for too much. It was okay. Gears 5, they kind of lost me. I'll be frank. But yeah, it wasn't that great. But I didn't necessarily have any problems with it either. And so I think that's what's kind of strange to me is like I don't know, man. We're going from, well, she's a narrative director, so you know what, guys? You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, this is more significant than I realize, because I just remembered that God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, that was Cory Barlog's story. Yes, he was the director, but he made that story. He created that narrative. So this woman is taking his place now for God of War. I really have to wonder what how her interview went. and what, because those are some mighty big shoes to fill. Seriously. Like, I mean, that's a huge undertaking. Like, dude, we just had the biggest hits with God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok. And that's the story that Cory Barlog created. Now, Cory Barlog's working on a new IP, which is very exciting. So they need to find somebody to fill his shoes. And people might say, well, what about Eric Williams? Eric Williams is, don't know if he'll be the director of the next God of War game, but Eric Williams is the director. He was the director of Ragnarok, but he did not write the story. He was not he had to oversee the narrative, but he wasn't the creator of the narrative. So I really wonder, like, whatever she must have said to, I'm assuming people like Eric Williams, and I don't know how these interview processes go, but I just imagine that she must have had some pretty good ideas or something, because I just don't think that this is a position that you just hire anybody. It could be maybe she was just simply the best qualified. Of course, I would, that's important too. Actually, it's like, that's terrible news. It might be. I don't want to, again, I don't want to make too many assumptions now, but it's like, yeah, I don't know, man. Here's what I do know. I keep saying I don't know why I say I don't know so much. I think I just say it when I'm thinking. What I do know is that Gears 4 and 5 simply do not compare, narrative-wise, to God of War 2018 or Ragnarok. They just don't compare. They don't hold a candle. And I'm not saying that to shit on Gears. It's just the truth. I think even Xbox players would agree with that. It's just the truth. It doesn't hold a candle. I do not have a high level of confidence, or even much confidence at all, knowing that the person who was in charge, or at least played a huge role in Gears 4's narrative and Gears 5, is now taking the reins with God of War's narrative. It's going to lead to future woke God of War games, just like Gears 4 and 5. Listen, if we fucking get to a point where God of War goes woke, I'm going to fucking jump out a window. Okay? Like, I can't take anymore. I can't do it. And I mean, look. I'm trying to get the best angle. How are you going to make this woke? You'd have to go above and beyond to make this woke, you know? You're saying it already is, MBG. Look at the ending of Ragnarok. Well, hold on. You're telling me Ragnarok is woke? Why is Ragnarok? Why? They will focus on Loki. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, and this is just the truth. I like Atreus' character. I like Loki. Like, I liked him in the first game, and I liked the second game. I didn't enjoy playing as him as much as Kratos, obviously, but I wasn't as against it as other people were. But I'll tell you this, and I do feel confident enough to say this definitively. I do. If Sony thinks that the future of God of War as a franchise rests on the shoulders of Atreus/Loki, they're going to kill this. Like, the franchise is very successful right now. It will end. It will just end because that's not what people want. Don't get me wrong. I would like to continue to see more of Atreus and some of his journeys, but this idea that it's like Kratos is gone now and no more Kratos, it's just not going to work, man. It's not. I just don't. How could that work? How could it work? They have to appeal to the younger generation that's more accepting of wokeness. Dude, I did a little bit more research on that Sweet Baby Inc. company. I talked about them recently, but I did even more research, and yeah, it's a fucking problem. It's a problem. It's not. Again, I'm not going to say much more on it because I did a rant on it, and I pretty much, I think I nailed what I had to say. But I cannot stand these companies, man, that they just like pop up and they're just like, let us guide you. Let us guide you. Like, yes, we just came out of nowhere. We very clearly have a political agenda. Let us guide you. We don't believe you know what you're doing. Or you may be a little bit insensitive. It's like, dude, can you just get the fuck out? Like, because you know what bothers me the most? I don't even care that you have an agenda. You know what I mean? Like, have your agenda. That's fine. Have your agenda. Like, you're entitled to that. But please just leave shit alone. Make your own shit. That's it. Just like, you want it, go make it. And if it's good, people will come to it. There you go. As I almost flip over my fucking keyboard. I'm about to snap. That's all. If I don't like this, I don't like the idea of people who believe that, we have the moral high ground and our political ideologies are superior. So we should kind of help mold what you're working on here. It's like, well, or you could just make your own shit and let people enjoy this thing over here that you don't have to be a part of. You know? It's so stupid. I just need to know when it's going to end. That's all. Like I'm not even trying to be like extreme right wing Republican. No, I just need to know like when can shit just kind of like stable? Like when can we get an equilibrium? That's what I'm looking for, an equilibrium, just where like shit doesn't have to go in any one specific direction needlessly, because that's what makes it so weird. Is this? Yeah, the whole. Dude, like Kratos, I think his journey was really good and really well executed. Where how do we take this ultra violent, like animal of a fucking man/god and humanize him and make him softer without making him weaker, right? So being soft doesn't mean you're weak. And I think that that's kind of the whole thing about Kratos' journey is he became a father. You know, he wanted to be a better person. Like, and I really, really, really appreciated what they did with Kratos because that's what we need. We need more of that. Like Kratos, by the end of God of War Ragnarok, is the definition of like a true man, a man's man. You know, like a man who is he has responsibility, he takes accountability, he's soft when he needs to be, but he will not fucking take shit. You know, speak softly, carry a big stick, right? That's Kratos by the end of that game. And I would just love to see more of that Kratos and how much further it can go. That's all. I just let him have his violent tendencies when he has to. You know, we still saw a little bit of that. We still saw a little bit of that, but MBG, he is Chuck Norris. Got to give a big shout out. Guys, we have Silent Merc. Silent Merc does it. He re-ups his membership. He chooses to show direct support. He re-ups his membership. Let's get some W's in the chat for Silent Merc. Thank you so much, my friend. He brings us to 40 members on the day. Silent Merc, 40 members on the day, 10 away from hitting a second goal. Amazing stuff, dude. So Silent Merc,
thank you.
That's for you, my friend. Speaking of Kratos. Let me read these chats. We have Surge343 saying, here's a list of 5 non-AAA games to try. Got to try more games instead of trophy hunting. Fist, Cult of the Lamb, Death's Door, Ghost Song, Thymesia. I played Thymesia, and I platinumed that shit. See, I play indie games sometimes. I swear, dude, I bought that game, played it. I was like, this game actually looks like a pretty solid Souls-like. And I ended up getting the platinum, and it was good. It was actually pretty damn good. It was one of the better Souls-likes I've played. Definitely smaller in scope and scale, but I don't know why I never really talked about it. But yeah, dude, I got that game platinumed, and I guess I just didn't really think about the fact that it was an indie game. These other games you mentioned, though, Fist, Cult of the Lamb, Death's Door, Ghost Song I never heard of. The other ones I've heard of, and I've heard good things about it. But yeah, Thymesia, solid game. We'll see. I decided not to get the platinum for Alan Wake 2. So I'm just going to move on from that. I'm happy with the fact that I got like 55 trophies or something in it. It'll be interesting to see if I end up trying to pursue the platinum in Lies of P. Is it difficult for anybody who's actually attempted the platinum Lies of P? Is it very difficult? Actually, you're saying, I'm shocked. I didn't know you had it in you. Yeah, man, I've always been a big fan of the Soulsborne genre. I just, you know what it is? A lot of times, like, there are so many different Soulsborne games that come out that I just can't even keep up. But that was one that, another indie Soulsborne game I played was, oh my God, this is going to drive me nuts. I see the game in my mind. Mortal Shell. There we go. I knew it was going to take a second. I played Mortal Shell. I didn't platinum it, but I played Mortal Shell, and that was pretty decent. That had some unique mechanics. I played Remnant. Yeah, I played Remnant 2. I enjoyed that. Lords of the Fallen I played, and then I don't know, I put like 20 hours into it. I'm like, I'm just not something about it I couldn't get into. I don't know why. TB, really quick. I see TB tried to. It looks like you tried to use your milestone chat. There's no text there, so I'm going to assume this is just you doing this purposely. So TB, I want to give a shout out to you for being a member for 5 months, man. Really appreciate it, bud. We have Baldy McNosehair saying, "Did you see Cyberpunk 2077 physical release controversy?" No, I did not. Baldy McNosehair, can you, if you're able to, I'll try to catch it if you can only put it in the chat. Can you let me know what this controversy is? I must have completely missed something because I have no idea what you're talking about. I think I did see that there's like a new version of Cyberpunk releasing, but now you're telling me there's some problems, maybe. If you like Remnant, look up games called Shadow Tower Abyss. It's made by FromSoft, really? Does anybody know what Baldy McNosehair may be referring to here with some cyberpunk drama? The PS5 specifically? Thinking of getting RoboCop. Apparently this RoboCop game is really good. The problem is I've never been into RoboCop. Like, I think it was before my time, really. Again, the only thing I remember of RoboCop, I think I've seen like parts of the first movie. I may have actually watched the entirety of the first movie and just completely forgotten most of it. Because if I saw it, I was really young. I remember seeing parts of it, so I was very young. But I remember a RoboCop cartoon. Nick is saying Xbox gets all the DLC on the disc. PS5 is a code. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's beat. That sucks. I wonder why that is. You would think it would be the opposite. Well, I guess the only question I have after that is how much controversy is that causing? I mean, that I think that is a bummer, but I wouldn't stop that. I wouldn't let that stop me from buying and enjoying the game. But yeah, it should be on the disc. I really wonder why that is, though. I say this because, dude, if you see what Sony's doing with the Horizon Forbidden West Complete Edition, they put everything on the disc. So I don't. I guess I'm just wondering, like, whose decision was this? Did I'm just wondering why. Maybe CD Projekt Red is pretty transparent with the stuff. I'm sure. Did they say anything? Mm. Well, I'll see if anything more comes of it. Let me look it up real quick. VGC Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition announced box PS5 version won't include Phantom Liberty on the disc. Oh, okay. The Ultimate Edition of the sci-fi RPG is set for release digitally and physically in select markets on December 5th. The release will mark the first time the game will be available to purchase physically for the Series X, S, and PS5. Why did I think you could already buy it physically on the PS5? However, following the Ultimate Edition's announcement, CD Projekt confirmed that the physical release will have a significant digital element on some platforms. The company told VGC that the Series X and S version will come on 3 discs housing Cyberpunk 2077 and Phantom Liberty. Wow, another 3-disc physical version. The PS5 version will only include the base game on disc, with players required to download the expansion separately. And the boxed PC version, of course. The reason for the difference in how the Phantom Liberty is included in the Ultimate Edition is due to technical requirements specific to each platform. This is what a CD Projekt spokesperson told VGC. Following the news, some fans expressed frustration that some box versions of the game won't be as complete as their title suggests. That makes no sense at all, wrote one individual. The ultimate version should contain all released content on the disc. Why are PS5 players at a disadvantage, but Xbox includes it all on the disc? John Linneman of Digital Foundry said, I've been told this is a problem on Sony's side with how DLC plugs into games. It says here, Sony does allow developers to compile DLC on disc builds, as we have other examples. This was a response by Does It Play, a Twitter account dedicated to video game preservation accessibility. Yes, and I suspect that's what's going on here, Linneman said. They didn't want to make a separate build just for the disc. Okay. Yeah, so, yeah. To me, it seems pretty clear at this point. Say, because they consider it to be a different SKU, bro. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that, like, I can understand why CD Projekt Red is like, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not making a whole separate SKU, or it would be nice if they went that extra mile, but I understand why they wouldn't. I guess my only question at this point is why, if Sony can do anything about it, right? If it's difficult for developers to, because it's clear that it requires a little bit more work, because again, Guerrilla Games did it for the complete edition of Horizon Forbidden West. And you can understand why they would go out of their way to do it. But if CD Projekt Red isn't willing to do it, it must be a kind of pain in the ass. That sucks, though. I hope Sony can figure something out with that, because, talking about physical media, yeah, I'll straight up, the physical version of Cyberpunk 2077 has a distinct advantage over the PS5 version, in the fact that everything comes on disc with 3 discs. But I guess we'll see if Sony ends up doing anything about that. But to be clear, though, I don't think this is going to I don't think this is like major outrage. I don't think this is making people like lose sleep and freak out. Truthfully, I'm sure there are some people who are very passionate about it. But all right, let me see here. So, Balding McNosehair, appreciate you letting me know about that. I totally missed it. We have Kyle. He says, after seeing the physical disc version of The Last of Us Part 2, I think I'm going to buy it for the extra trading cards and patches. It's so appealing. Yeah, I have to think about what I'm going to do with The Last of Us Part 2, because I told you guys, I don't have any interest in actually playing it, but it's one of these things where I'll have to see where I am at the time, because a part of me almost thinks like maybe it would be a good thing for the channel, maybe, just to kind of maybe some members lounge shenanigans. Maybe see if saying I'm getting it. I don't. We'll see. If I'll put it to you this way: if I were to get it, it would literally be for the channel, not for me, because I don't know. I just thought maybe it would be kind of fun to play a little bit of it together. But I'm totally up in the air with it right now. Play the beta levels on stream. Oh, yeah. True. See, that I'm in a conundrum there. Because I could just, I could just pay the $10 to upgrade it. But there's always that, I like to collect physical games. Is that a game I would like to collect? I don't know. I mean, it's a huge difference. $10, $70. Settled, he's buying it. It's not settled yet, no. It really depends on, there's some time. It depends on a lot, a lot of things can change between now and then. Depends on what I'm doing at that time, what I'm playing, where we're at. You guys want me to play it? You already have it physically, MBG. I know, but I mean just like having like the actual PS5 box. Yeah, I know. That's always a conundrum for me with physical media. Oh man. If you do play as Tommy. I just listen, I'll be honest with you guys, like I had to force myself to finish The Last of Us Part 2. I did. Um I got to a point with that game. It was a pretty dude, is it just me? The Last of Us Part 2 was like longer than I expected. Like I mean it was a long game for a single player game. It kind of reminded me of Uncharted 4 a little bit where it's like it's longer than you would have thought. And yeah, it went on like for I think a little bit too long, but I did get to a point specifically with how long you play as Abby in that game. I got to a point where I was like, I was rushing through. I'm like, I gotta just power through. I really wonder. I'm assuming I would feel the same way if I tried to play the, you know, if I tried to play the story again. But the gameplay is fun, for sure. I mean, I will say that that boss battle with Abby in the hospital was pretty sick. That was pretty fucking cool. All right. I'm going to give you the George Lucas special edition line. Struggled to finish it again for the first time. Damn. All right, let's see. But thank you for the super chat, Kyle. We also have Silent Merc with a 1 month member chat here saying about 5% of the world is woke. When will these companies look at Disney and learn a lesson? Great content, mate. Keep it up. Don't let the haters hate, bud. I appreciate it. Yeah, well, haters are going to hate, man. You know, I'm not even, people are going to do what they're going to do, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and the world continues to spin, right? So, yeah, I don't, the woke shit, like I'm just to a point where I feel like I just can't even bring it in me to be mad anymore, because it's just like I'm just tired, and I just don't even want to give it attention anymore, and just, you know, I don't know. It's it's tough. It feels like I've been seeing more shit pop up about it, you know, with all this different stuff. And I just I'm so listen, man. In my opinion, the biggest problem with companies, you know, a lot of people bring up like Sweet Baby Inc. It's not like they're, I don't, as far as I'm aware, they're not like the only company doing shit like this. Um, and I looked into the whole like BlackRock thing and whatnot, and yeah, it's definitely, I don't know that I even care that much at that point, because it's like shit. If that's true, like shit is going on at such a high level that it's like, well, this is just fucking stupid. Like I don't even know that I should care, because it's like what am I gonna do here? You know, I guess like just not support it, and that's all I can do, really. Just save my money. Um, do I have any take on the Pokimaine? How do you say her name? Is it Pokimaine? Pokimaine controversy. Yeah, that's I saw that shit, dude, where she put out like a line of like I guess her own line of cookies, and each bag is like $7, which I feel like that's expensive for a bag of cookies. I don't know how many cookies you get in it, but that sounds expensive to me. I mean, everything's expensive these days, but that sounds a little bit more expensive than what I would expect to pay. Like I'm assuming you're paying a premium because it's her brand of cookie. But yeah, I saw there was like this clip, and I think people are making see, this is where I just start to cringe, dude. And I know it's ironic because I'm sitting here focused on like Sony and shit and getting into the weeds of this $1 billion corporation, and I'm sure there are plenty of fucking people that cringe at me. But I saw how like it's because it became like a big controversy that she, there were people in her chat, I guess, pointing out that like her cookies are too expensive. And she said some shit like, 4 bags of cookies are like $28. Like you can't afford that. You're just a broke boy. Just if you're a broke boy, just say it. And just being really condescending. Like if you can't fucking afford it, then just say you can't afford it. Like you're just poor. It's like it's definitely insensitive to her viewers because it's like, well, like, yeah, $28 is a lot of fucking money for fucking 4 bags of cookies like that. No one's saying you have to make it seem like they're fucking spending their life savings on it, but just acknowledge that like anybody who's gonna like, dude, if I was selling cookies and somebody came to me and was like, man, I spent $28 on your cookies, I'd be like, wow, man, thank you, like that's a lot, that's a lot to spend on cookies. I wouldn't say to somebody if they were like, man, I think that $28 is too much for cookies. I'd be like, honestly, I'd say if I was fucking selling cookies and they were $7 a pop. Because I don't know, am I out of touch here? How much are cookies these days? I think if I were to fucking go into the supermarket and buy like a thing of Oreos, there's no fucking way they're gonna be like $7, right? Maybe like $4. Even that sounds a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. Man, I haven't had Oreos in a while. I'm just saying it's weird. It's weird to see how intense. It's $3 now. Okay, that sounds $6. Okay, whoa, hold the fucking phone. You're telling me Oreos are? I gotta look now. Hold on. Now I gotta check. I'm gonna go to Walmart. I'm gonna type in Oreos. Let's see, $3.98. So $4. Okay, $4 at least here. $4. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, she was just clearly wrong. Like that's a shitty way to behave. Like to basically be like, if you can't afford my cookies, you're broke. It's like, okay, I mean, sure, I guess. But people are fucking losing their shit. Like I'm just seeing all these intense like it's a big drama. It's a big drama because of what she said about her cookies, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like I just see shit pop up, and I'm like, what is happening to people's brains, dude? Where it's like, what the fuck are we even talking about anymore? Like it makes me feel like I'm losing it. Like I'm truly becoming out of touch. I'm getting old, and I'm just like, what the fuck are these kids going on about? Like, who cares what this one female streamer had to say about fucking her cookies? Like, who cares? Like, why is this trending? like, I mean, if anything, she wins because it's like, congratulations, you gave her fucking product more exposure than she probably could have ever asked for. And like, I don't know. It's everybody just listen, man. That's all the internet is anymore, it seems. The internet is just different personalities trying to get one over on other personalities and trying to take the ethical, moral high ground. And I'm just so fucking tired of seeing it where it's like, look, yes, there are times where it needs to happen, but it's like, okay, so people, the previous drama, the previous streamer / content creator drama was with SS Sniper Wolf. Now that was justified. Like the way people reacted to that was justified because it's like, yeah, this person just did something that crossed the line that is potentially dangerous, and we need to call attention to it so we can make sure shit like that doesn't become normalized and just allowed to happen. But then I see the next week that people are bringing just as much attention to Pokimaine's fucking comments on her cookies to a fan or a viewer. And I'm like, oh my God, like guys, We can't put these things on the same level. Because, like, if we do, then none of it matters. Just none of it matters, you know? But, yeah. I see this shit kind of just, I'm scrolling through YouTube, or sometimes I'm occasionally on Twitter, and I just kind of see this shit pop up, and I'm like, I can't be on the internet too long these days. I can't be on the internet too long these days, because it's like, when I see some of this shit, it's like the longer I'm in it, I feel like it's actually eroding my brain cells. Like, I feel like, oh my God, I'm like, it reminds me of that SpongeBob episode with the orb of confusion. Like, dude, I feel like when I'm holding my phone and I'm scrolling the internet, I'm scrolling any like YouTube or social media, I'm like, I may as well have the orb of confusion in my hand, bro. LOL, MBG, you're one of those people who pronounce wolf like wolf. I don't think so. At least I usually don't. Wolf. Wolf. Does it sound like I'm saying wolf? Oh my God, I guess it does. Wolf. A wolf. I am saying wolf. Exley's messing me up right now, man. You're saying life is just a crazy dream and I really want to wake up from it. There's a reason I don't use social media other than a few subs and memberships on YouTube. Yeah, I hear you, man. It's overwhelming. It is. You missed, I missed the AOL days, the AIM days. Enunciate. Say roof. Rough. What's on my rough? No, I say roof. Say milk. 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 That's how I say it. Am I from Europe? No, I am not. I swear you just said wolf. Sometimes, dude, I mispronounce stuff all the time when I'm talking, you know? I do. You guys know that. Cool whip. Dude, I can't, no. Cool whip. Cool whip. Cool whip. That's from Family Guy, right? Say supposedly. 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 Each state has a different way they say some words. I'm walking here. That's how I talk. You're saying all this time you had no idea I was in the States? Really? Where did you think I was from? Out of curiosity. And what made you think I wasn't from the United States? Now that's fascinating to me. Like that's genuinely fascinating to me, because it makes me wonder, like, what am I doing without realizing it that tells people I'm like, it makes them think I'm from Europe or something. You're saying English is your second language, so you mispronounce words all the time. Well, then what's my excuse? Shit. Some people say supposedly, and it's obnoxious. Yeah, I've never done that. Supposedly. Yeah, that doesn't sound right. I sound Canadian. Canadian, eh? You thought it was an Aborigine from Australia. I could see how you would think that. I can very clearly see how you would think that. He actually says he clearly has an East Coast American accent. You would be correct, actually. From Florida? Do you say tennis shoes or sneakers? You know what I've noticed? I've noticed the past year or two, I've been having trouble saying certain words that I previously didn't have trouble saying. Like, it's with the sh sound. Like, anytime I'm saying a word that ends with sh, and immediately goes into another S sounding word, like, or a S sounding word, any word that starts with the letter S, I notice it like I say it really weirdly, and I have to like correct myself. And it's been consistent. It's very strange. I didn't used to do that. Say water. Water. I'm gonna drink my water. Speech impairment. I got my water. Am I saying it right? No, I don't. The dude's like, whoa, hold on, man. I don't pronounce water. No, I say water. I'm gonna drink from my water bottle. I need a drink of water. I'm just trying to throw you guys off as best I can at this point. MBG was a skater boy, wasn't he? I did skate. Yeah, I love skateboarding. I don't know like what that is, like a skater boy. I mean, I guess in my youth I did skateboard, so I guess that would make me a skater boy. But muscle bound skater. I'll keep you guys guessing. It's kind of fun that way. You're saying I wore the Janko pants. You know what's weird? I don't think it's weird. I'm actually kind of proud of this. I never partook in any fucking trends. There was only one time in my life, and it was for a good reason, that I ever willingly allowed myself to alter like my look for like just to kind of appease whatever or be, and that so it was like back, I think like 2008, and I think like you guys, like the scene kids. To be clear, I was not that. Okay, like I was not into that. I didn't get like I did not even. You can tell what kind of person I am, right? And you can imagine I'm not much different now than I was then. Just not, just younger and certainly a little bit more naive. But I was like, away, like there's the jocks, there's the emo kids, there's at the time there's the scene kids, there's just like all these different groups and things. And I kind of realized like I think I was part of the weirdo group, frankly. I think that's what I was part of, because like, I don't know, they were very accepting and I didn't fall in line. I just kind of, I don't know, either the weirdo group or maybe the mentally disturbed group of people, because I think back to like the way I feel like during like lunch time in school, like in middle school and high school, you would kind of, all the groups would kind of congregate at different tables, and it would be easy to just see the different groups, on each table. And I would always sit at this table with a group of friends and acquaintances, I guess you could say. And we were fucking insane. Like, we just acted like morons, and we're like yelling and screaming and fucking around. And it, like, I think people were legitimately a little bit afraid of us, in that, like, what is wrong with these people? And there was definitely something wrong with us. I grew out of that. I think I did anyway. But it was easy for me to kind of like meld into that. But eventually I was Brown Sugar on. Yes. Yeah. Ironically enough, though, he didn't enjoy that. He was always annoyed by that shit. MBG bully group? No. I never bullied people, man. I hate bullies. Like, people, like, bullies are the fucking worst. Now, I was truthfully, like, I was more, it may not seem like it because it's kind of funny as you guys see me now, but I was more reserved. I kept to myself. I was always kind of I don't say in the shadows because that sounds fucking dramatic, but I just kind of blended in, you know? I blended in and I wasn't looking for attention. I was looking for the opposite of attention. Like I just didn't want to be noticed. I fucking hated school. Honestly, like I know I'm going like way off course here because I still have like 2 topics to discuss with you guys, but you know, we'll do a little side quest here. I hated school. I despised it and I wanted nothing to do with it. Um I mean, that's a conversation for another time. I could sit here and try to analyze that and figure out why I hated school so much. But I only had 1 year in high school that I actually enjoyed, and it was the only year I actually tried. And it was an important year for me because I realized that, oh wow, I am capable. I just have to care. And that was the big problem with schools. I just never actually cared. And I fucking, dude, listen, and I'm still this way today. And I know it's strange. It seems like it's not true because we're sitting here, you know, I'm streaming to people all the time, but I am antisocial. I am extremely antisocial. And I learned this about myself in school where, like, I think I just gave people a certain vibe where they were like afraid to approach me or talk to me. And I definitely gave that vibe because I always seemed like I was pissed off because I just didn't want to fucking be there. I just didn't want to be at school. I didn't want to be around people. Yeah, and I basically just kind of observed and watched and you know, my hatred for the world and everybody in it, I'm just kidding. It grew. No, it wasn't that severe, but I just knew like, man, I can't wait till this is over and I can just move on. And you know, I told you guys there was only one time in my life where I altered my look purposely and I decided to attempt to follow a trend, and it was in the name of love. You know, me and my wife, we met each other like really early in life, you know, and when we were teenagers. And this again was during a time when like the scene thing was a thing, and I fucking dude, I cringed so bad. I'm like, this shit is stupid. People look stupid. Like, what are you doing? But at the time, you know, my wife was kind of into it, or at the, you know, not my wife at the time, but she was kind of into it, and you know, it was a kind of a funny thing because I definitely let her know how I felt about it, but at the same time, I was like, you know, I wanted to get her to like me, so I was like, you know what, maybe I'll give it a shot. You know, I'll wear some tighter jeans. Is that the thing you do? Like you wear like, right? These wear like skinny jeans or whatever. And my hair was a little, I did have hair. Yeah, I was always bald. I was like Caillou. I was always bald. No, dude, I had, I gotta see if I can, I don't know if I still have this picture, but there was this one picture I took. Dude, I had long black hair and it was straightened and it was just, it was totally from 2000 fucking 8. And but here's the good news. That shit lasted for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, bro. Like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was like, I'm trying. And I think that it meant something. I like to think that that helped, you know? What is that noise? I like to think that that helped, you know? You're saying, what is a scene thing? Look it up, man. Just go like YouTube, like scene kids or something. And I wasn't crazy. Like I wasn't wearing like makeup and shit. I couldn't do it. What I did with my hair was the weirdest thing that I did. Cause I was like, dude, why am I straightening my hair? Or like my wife, I would let her do it for me, you know? And it was just kind of funny because looking back on it, it's like, well, first off, I had hair. I should have been more appreciative of it. Second off, it was long, beautiful hair. Second off, reverse mullet. You know, it was just, it's so funny to look back on that and think like, damn, I can't believe I did that. Like that was the only time in my life I'm like, I guess. So you know what ended up happening though? It was clear, and I was just like telling her like, I can't do this. Like I don't like I don't like my hair being straightened. I can't wear tight jeans like this. I'm not doing this. And I was like, is there something else? You know, because I was like telling her, like, I just usually shave my head. You know, I wasn't always bald, but I would always just shave my head to like a buzz cut. You know, it's just how I kept it. She was like, you should try getting a mohawk. I was like, okay, sure. So I went to like a place to get my hair cut, and I had them do a mohawk, and it looked really good actually. And everybody was like complimenting, saying like, yo, that actually looks great. Like, mohawk fits you well. I could probably still pull a mohawk off. Maybe. But I don't know. There might be a little bit patchy. I'm not sure. I should get that Hitman tattoo on the back of my head. That would be funny as hell. That'd be funny as hell. I have to see if I can find any of these pictures, dude. I know I have some of them lying around somewhere. This is like from years ago. You get to see like young MBG. I had a mohawk a couple times in life. Not like a crazy one. Not like one of these ones that was like a fucking foot tall, you know, all the way around. Pretty tame. Pretty tame. But that's funny. It's funny to reminisce here a little bit, you know? Okay, Mrs. MBG, I need a picture of your husband with the mohawk and the scene kid. I'm certain I have a picture. I'm fairly certain I have at least a picture of me with the mohawk. I gotta go. You guys will have to remind me. I'll see if after this stream, maybe tomorrow, if I'm able to stream tomorrow. It's Thanksgiving. I'll see if I can find a picture or two, which would be pretty funny to show. Yeah, baby MBG. Let me show you a baby picture of me. We got Novinzer here saying, I'm still gonna bug you to watch Enemy Man, LOL. Dude, I'm telling you, I'll get to it eventually. I'm telling you, I've seen this movie and I just don't remember it like that well. But I do remember it's Jake Gyllenhaal, right? It's Jake Gyllenhaal, and it has like the craziest twist ending where he's like a doppelganger. I'm telling you, I've seen it. I just don't remember all the details, but I'll have to get to it, man. No promises when, of course. You know how I roll. Maybe I'll get to it eventually. Starscream 3117, really appreciate the super chat, buddy. You're saying off topic, but I just played the Plague Tale games and they were amazing. Some of the best storytelling I've ever played. Absolutely blown away and highly recommend trying them at some point. I've heard amazing things about these games. I meant to play a Plague Tale Requiem, never got around to it. I just saw that apparently they have a third one in development. So these are, you want to talk about having a backlog, you know, these are games that I'm definitely, I would say, are sitting there in my backlog. That it's again, man, I'm really bad with this stuff. Like, my instinct is to just want to say like, yeah, I'll get to it, I'll play it, but I've just said that so many times with so many different games, and I just never get around to playing them. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to play them, but I can tell you that I've heard really, really good things about them, and there may come a time where I just am like, oh, and now I'm going to play it. But I appreciate you letting me know, man. I appreciate the super chat. Let me see here. All right. So where are we? We're almost at the 3-hour mark. All right. So here's what we're going to do. You're saying you work on Thanksgiving, sadly. We get paid twice the rate. Well, that's definitely good. Yeah, it sucks to have to work on a holiday. It does. But yeah, usually you do get paid, you know, overtime or double. Just get to Liza P, MBG. Yeah, that's on the docket, man. That's on the docket. MBG, you spent a lot of time on Sony being sued. I know. I'm curious to check the comments on this stream afterwards, because I get the feeling, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit, but I get the feeling that people are gonna let me know, like, hey, MBG, you're totally off the mark here, and here's why. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Or I don't know, maybe I'm not off the mark, and it is one of these things where it's like, Because it again, like the whole situation going on with Sony being sued, it's you know, it, it's the lawyers really and legal teams that have to deal with the shit. And I'm not that in the know with that shit at all, and I don't even want to pretend to be. So, all right, but we have two more topics here. They're relatively short, but I just wanted to give you these kind of bonus pieces of information here. The first is about Star Wars KOTOR Remake and how we have a significant update. I think it's significant because of the source. It's coming from Jason Schreier. And the last we heard was Jeff Grubb. He claimed that no one's working on this game and that Sony wanted to cut ties with it and did cut ties with it. And now we have an update from Jason Schreier. This is being reported by WCCF Tech. According to renowned journalist Jason Schreier, the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake is still being worked on. Some days ago, we reported that development on the highly anticipated remake of the 2003 classic has stopped. Embracer's CEO declined to comment on the matter, and Jeff Grubb recently claimed that no team is currently working on that title. Quote, to clear it up, this game is just not being worked on right now, end quote. That's what Jeff Grubb said in his latest Game Mess Mornings live stream. Quote, just full stop, this game is not being worked on on in any way at any studio. I've looked into it, and I don't think this is news to most of you. You can piece this together if you've been listening to this. Sony stepping away and scrubbing mentions of Knights of the Old Republic from social media and YouTube, but just to 100% confirm it, the game is not being worked on now, end quote. According to Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, however, this might not entirely be true, as two people from developer Saber Interactive have reportedly told him that the game is still being worked on. Jason Schreier adds that whether it will ever come out and in what state are different questions altogether. Is it alive and will it ever actually come out are two very different questions, says Jason Schreier on the Reset Era forums when asked about the matter. A third is, if it does ever come out, what will it actually look like? That said, I've talked to two people at Saber who both say they're still currently working on it, so I don't believe that the comment that it isn't being worked on in any way right now is true. On X, formerly known as Twitter, Schreier also said that he can't confirm whether the remake will ever actually be released. I can't say whether the KOTOR remake will ever actually come out, but yes, two people from Saber Interactive tell me they're still on it, despite recent rumors that nobody's working on the game. It's also worth noting, and this is not written in the article, but this is pretty critical to this update. Jeff Grubb came out and, he clarified a couple of things. Jeff Grubb clarified that where he's hearing this from is from Sony, like a source from within Sony. So he didn't talk to anybody from Saber Interactive. And what the source from Sony told him is basically that no one's really working on the game and that Sony is walking away from it. And so when Jeff Grubb heard that no one's working on the game, knowing that he got it from a Sony source, that probably was true. Like he was saying, like, nobody at Sony is involved with this game, including Sony themselves. It's just not a thing for them anymore. But it does kind of make sense that developers from Saber Interactive would still be working on this. It seems, and Jeff Grubb also said that it seems like the only way this game is going to come out is if they have a big partner attached to it. Sony was supposed to be that big partner, but now Sony is backing out, and so it seems like somebody else is going to have to come in. I did see some people saying like maybe this will be Microsoft's opportunity to come in and save this game, supposedly. I mean, if Sony's the reason why Sony apparently walked away or wanted to walk away from KOTOR Remake is because Aspyr, we know what happened there, right? Like Sony made an investment to fund this game with Aspyr developing it. They worked on it. They made a build of it and they showed it to Sony, and Sony was unimpressed with it. And Sony was so unimpressed with it that they were like, you guys, like, this is not good. And it got to a point where Aspyr, some people were fired or left, and the entire project got moved to Saber Interactive. And it could be that Sony basically severed ties after that. Like after things fell apart with Aspyr, Sony could have just said, we're not wasting any more money on this. This is a lost cause. We're moving on. And and we're just now hearing about it. Or it could be that Saber Interactive, Sony gave it another chance. Saber Interactive was working on it, and they couldn't do much else with it either. And Sony was just like, you know what? We're just done here. And so, that's the thing. If Sony's walking away from it, it's hard to say if it can be. I mean, I probably still can be saved. I don't know. But my guess is that Sony expected like a Final Fantasy VII Remake level with this game. And we probably got something nowhere. They probably saw something that was nowhere close to that. And I think Sony maybe just realized that what they want from this game, KOTOR Remake, is not going to happen. You're saying that was loud AF. What happened? Did I like hit the mic? Am I screaming it? Is it too close to my mouth? I apologize. So yeah, it doesn't seem like it's dead, as in like it's canceled, it's scrapped, no one's touching it. It just seems like in terms of it coming out anytime remotely soon, not a possibility. And in terms of Sony's involvement, they're no longer involved. We're going to have to wait, I think, to hear a little bit more, but these are the pieces that I'm putting together at this point between what Jason is saying and what Jeff Grubb is saying. So, yeah, if we get any more news on KOTOR Remake, I'll be sure to let you guys know about it. It's a game that I see a lot of people still ask about, and it's understandable because it has a ton of potential. Apparently, LucasArts really want to get this made, or Lucasfilm or whatever. So yeah, that was one of the final topics. The last topic I have for you here is more information regarding The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. This is being reported by PlayStation Lifestyle. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered's recently announced roguelike mode No Return will apparently feature 12 levels. This leaked via a Naughty Dog employee's LinkedIn profile. It appears to be the new norm for the studio, with the latest tidbit of information also coming from a former staff member. In its official announcement of The Last of Us 2 Remastered, Naughty Dog said that it will share more details about No Return closer to launch. But if former QA tester Colin Freeman's LinkedIn profile is to be believed, we know the mode will have at least 12 levels. As spotted by a Last of Us fan on Twitter, Freeman states that he created, implemented, and tested AI dialogue regions in-engine across 12 different No Return roguelike levels, level layouts in The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. He doubles down on that number by adding that he also tested and modified extraneous audio regions and adjusted PAT tags on surfaces and objects throughout 12 different No Return roguelike levels. So, yeah, it's not like a, it's not like this is shocking news or anything, but I'm curious what you guys think about this when we hear about this No Return game mode that's going to be available at The Last of Us Part 2. Does 12 levels sound like a lot to you? I mean, are these levels basic? What I'm curious about with these levels, and I'm really, really wondering now, are these like levels that were going to be featured or may still be featured in the upcoming Last of Us multiplayer? And they decided, you know what, like maybe we can put these to use in this remaster. That's what I'm kind of curious about, because I mean there were a lot of areas. You know what? If I had to guess, though, I'm thinking that these 12 levels in this No Return mode, if I had to guess, they're probably just from the game, because there are a lot of different areas in The Last of Us Part 2. So that's my assumption, but just wanted to give you guys that other tidbit of information. Apparently 12 levels. Maybe more than that. It's hard to say, but... And yeah, really quick, let me check, Jake. So check this out. I just want to read this article to you. This is courtesy of Jake Skew. He sent me this. It's actually about it's an ex-Rockstar developer. He sheds light on the long-lost Agent development. This was supposed to be a PS3 exclusive. Former Rockstar Games technical director I can't pronounce this name. It's a former technical director, has shed light on the developer's long-lost spy thriller Agent, which was announced as a PlayStation 3 exclusive in 2009, but disappeared. In a blog post detailing his 1995 to 2009 tenure at Rockstar North, the studio where Agent originated, pressure from Grand Theft Auto 5's development contributed to the game eventually switching studios before seemingly being canceled altogether. We really got going on this one and worked on it for over a year. I remember working on a downhill skiing chase scene with guns, for instance. He says the game wasn't progressing as well as we had hoped. It was inevitable that eventually the whole company would have to get behind the next Grand Theft Auto. We tried to cut the game down in an attempt to get the bulk of it done before the inevitable call from New York would come. We cut out an entire level one, an entire level, and maybe even the space section. There was a space section. It became clear that Agent was going to be too much of a distraction for us, and we ditched it. I think it was handed over to another company within Rockstar, but never got completed. Half of the Rockstar North team was working on GTA 4 DLC and GTA 5, while half was set to work on Agent before the importance of its premiere franchise took over. The game is presumed to be a dead project at Rockstar, but has never officially been canceled. Little else suggests that it's being worked on, though. Images leaked in 2015 that showed some of its levels. While some hope remained due to its renewed trademarks, this was eventually scrapped in 2018, and the website shut down in 2021. Agent was developed as a spy thriller akin to James Bond, earning it the codename Jimmy within the Scotland-based Rockstar North studio, with Jimmy being a Scottish nickname for James. The game was set to be in the 70s, be more linear than GTA with a number of locations. There was a French Mediterranean city, a Swiss ski resort, and at the end there would be a big shootout with lasers and space. Classic James Bond. The vibe was very cool. So, yeah, really, really interesting insight here. This is a game that a lot of people were very, very curious about and excited for, and it just went away. And so it's not often we get like these types of details straight up from development teams letting us know. And so, yeah. But guys, yeah, thank you for that, Jake. So we're at about the 3-hour mark. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to segue to the outro. We have another members lounge that we're going to be doing. Okay. So again, if you are a channel member, in the next 5 minutes or so, 5 minutes from when the stream ends, you're going to see another stream pop up. It's a members only stream. Click on that. We're going to hang out. We're going to talk. We're going to chill for a little bit. And I hope to see you there. But before I do that, I want to give a big thank you to everybody today. We are sitting at 40 new members gifted, which is incredible to see. Seriously, I'm blown away by the generosity of this community and the support you continue to show. I love being able to do this. I love that you guys support it, and I think we have an incredible community. So to everybody who gifted a membership today or just became a member or is a member, thank you so much. And I also want to give a big shout out to everybody who donated a super chat. Those are incredibly important as well. Keep the conversation flowing in different directions, but it also helps support the channel directly. So big, big shout out to you guys. And also just a big thank you to everybody who takes time out of their day to watch the streams. I also want to make sure to give a shout out to Devil Shooter. He does the timestamps for all the content. If you see him in the chat or in the comments, give him a big thank you. Show him some love. But that is going to do it for today's show. That's going to do it for this episode of MBG Live. Be sure to just leave it a like as you're heading out, and I'm going to set up the members lounge, and I'm looking forward to it. I will let you know, for anybody who's still here who is a member, I do have two things, two like kind of little bonus topics, I guess you could say. Small ones, but bonus topics nonetheless that I want to talk to you guys about. So I hope to see you there. That does it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will catch you guys in the members lounge. So let's go.